I give it
So
to you. It's likely,
so
right?
so
It
I
is.
don't
It's
yeah,
possible. I mean, it
I
is
I
probably
don't
likely, right?
I don't know either, but I do know that the problem is that we do know that what she did makes it to where it is more likely. And so even if we don't know for
Mm,
sure that it came from her community, we do know that what she did was insanely irresponsible and that like this
nah,
is
I wouldn't. No.
no.
I think you're confused. I didn't bring up freedom of speech when you're talking about trans people. So,
No, you
like
didn't. You
that.
brought it up with the other thing,
No,
but I'm saying that your
with
argument of
Native
freedom of
Americans.
speech applies to the trans people. And so if you're saying, Paul, if you
No, it
don't, if
doesn't.
you think, hold on, if you think that
Because one is hate
saying,
speech, and one is fucking just education. Why are you saying they're the same thing? Why are you comparing hate speech to education, like just normal education, or an opinion on something like uh, uh, if the Native American stance is that the American government is illegitimate and that all Americans should be deported, you're saying that that is akin to hate speech, or that's like similar to it.
okay,
So, I was watching a little bit of your Ethan Klein coverage earlier, but I had to get back to editing, so I figured you'd DM me when you were done. Did you finish up that video and everything?
yes. Yeah, the other thing that um, I went to go check is that they were showing the bad empanada claims, but they didn't actually show him say where he got the claims from and where he got the evidence from. They just like moved to this is what Bad Empanada was talking about, and so I had to go and find where it came from and what he claimed was the evidence instead. And so yeah, um,
Was this about the thing you said about AB
AB.
when he was like, yeah, when he was saying that AB was a domesticated child or whatever the hell he said? He was like, AB just sits there and nods while Ethan, I forget the exact quote, but at one point you were
No, it
talking
was
about it. You were
no. He
I was
was
watching
saying
you
that they
talk
were
about it.
he was saying that they were eating dog shit and that they got
Right.
this like horrible virus from eating dog poop and that
Well, that's what
and that
Ethan said, right?
no, no, so Ethan just said his kids like got giardia, and
Mhm.
because his kid got giardia they had to take their kid to the hospital. And then Bad Empanada took that and started saying, "Yeah, they got Giardia because they're not actually taking care of their kids and they're neglecting them and just leaving them with housekeepers, and now their kids are just crawling around eating dog shit and or while they're being neglected and nobody's keeping up with them and knows what's going on." And then
Mhm.
Denims reviewed that and was watching it, and then she's sitting there and she's like, wow, this is disgusting. Like, I can't believe they would do this. Someone needs to call CPS. And like, this is so dangerous that kids don't have immune systems. They're not supposed to ever get sick. Kids should never, ever get sick. They don't have the ability to deal with
Yeah,
stuff. And
I did, yeah, no, I did see
yes. And
all
I'm
that.
like,
I
what the
think I was a little
fuck, dude?
confused on because when I was watching you earlier, there was one part where you were showing, something that Bad Empanada had posted on well, Ethan was showing something that Bad Empanada had posted on Instagram, I guess, and it was a still screenshot of AB talking about him being a domesticated child or something. And at that point, you were like, "Oh, I gotta go. I have to." Maybe you might have been talking about another claim, but what was on screen was something different. But that's where the confusion came in. Everything else you just said, yeah, I'm pretty caught up on all the coverage and everything. Um, Surprisingly, I agreed with most of what you were saying earlier tonight, but
Surprisingly,
I,
shut up.
well, yeah, because I've been seeing a lot of like Ethan Klein. Just it seems like a lot of people have been blindly defending this insane crash out he's been on for the last year,
I don't think it's
and
an
kind
insane
of
crash out, but I do think that just the split in and of itself has made it to where the the Hasan orbiter lefties have taken it upon themselves to like make a lot of insane claims about him, and that they do just keep like kind of smearing him and going after him. And that's not to say that Ethan hasn't gotten things wrong, but he has admitted to getting a lot of things wrong, whereas they have blatantly clipped him out of context and lied about him over and over, and then taken back literally nothing at all whatsoever. And Denims has been one of the worst perpetrators of this. I just had a video recently where I put out something where somebody was going over Denims.
Yeah, I know. I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
That's my point.
Then
Like,
and
who?
well, she's blown up off this though. Like they were showing that, like, she's gotten she averaged like 50,000, 60,000 fucking viewers recently, like
Oh, that I did
concurrent
not
viewers.
know.
And
That's
yes, like
oh
she has
wow.
popped off because of this shit, and that every stream is like another Ethan Klein like attack stream. And then she's putting out videos on her YouTube channel that are popping off. And I reviewed some of the stuff, and she did get him on like a number of things, and he ended up admitting that he fucked up in a number of ways as well. But yeah, there's other things where she did just lie, and she hasn't like responded to any of those things. And so yeah, it's just that like that's not just her, but there's literally like rows of these people. We went over a guy's video recently. I forget what his name was, but it was something like North Star Radio, and
Hmm.
he
I know that guy.
his entire fucking video was just a blatant lie. Like, I went over
Sure.
clear like debunking of this stuff, like objective debunks of what it was that he was saying, where he's just clipping people out of context Ethan out of context over and over and over and over and over and over, trying to make it sound like he was saying things that he wasn't saying. Or then he would go and show data. One of the things that he showed was, Ethan, we all know that Ethan's a Destiny orbiter, because look, his subreddit has a 22% overlap with the DGG subreddit. And so then I went and checked. Hasan's subreddit has a 44% overlap with the Destiny subreddit. So like that thought process like might make sense initially, but then when you go look at it, it's like, okay, well, by this thought process, Hasan is an even bigger Destiny orbiter now. So I don't think this really works.
Yeah, but we know why. We know why the Hasan Destiny crossover happens, and it's not because Hasan is,
Sure,
stalking
but that's what I'm saying is
Destiny.
but that's been the same for in general with Ethan as well. Is that over the last couple of years, Destiny has like very much not liked Ethan, and him and Ethan, every time they talked about each other, they were just talking shit about each other.
That's
And
not
then
true.
Ethan went and did a well, no, hold on, I'm talking about like over the years. Then
Oh,
and
okay.
then Ethan,
Okay. Yes.
Ethan ended up doing a full podcast with like Destiny's like biggest enemy and whatever. And so they had like a lot of vitriol towards each other, and they still probably had a lot of overlap, not because they like love each other, but because Destiny literally has the biggest fucking subreddit of any content creator. So everybody has massive overlaps with Destiny. Literally everyone does. Like Vosh's community has like a 90% overlap with Destiny's subreddit. It's just it's just that these are everybody
Yeah, but
has a
those are
huge overlap with
like
them.
those people came from Destiny's community, so that
So
would
did
be a little bit more
Hasan, yeah.
expected, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so did
Hasan and
Hasan, yeah.
Destiny, but Ethan Klein didn't. So why would there be
Correct.
a
And he has a
22%
much,
overlap?
yes, but his is much lower. Vosh's is 99%, Hasan's is 44%, and then Ethan's is half of Hasan's, right? And so you're like the claim when it's half of what Hasan has just doesn't seem to make sense.
Sure,
That the
sure. The
but
evidence
yeah,
is that evidence is weak. Yeah, that evidence is weak.
But
I would,
it's a even
I
regardless
think
of weak evidence, it's just a misrepresentation of the evidence as well. Like it's kind of
that too, yes.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could see where where one would get would start with that, but you'd have to do a lot more investigating after that. I mean, that's a good
Mhm.
starting point like that. That would pique my interest. 22%, overlap. What's going
Right,
on
that was
here?
my point.
You
Is I
would
said I was like
you would
this could be
need
a good
more.
point, but you have to go get the evidence of like what the overlap is with other communities in order for this to like mean anything. And so then I was like, you know what, let's just go find it. Like we'll just go see ourselves if that's the case and we'll see if he's right about this. And then yeah, we went and found that like yeah, he was just wrong and he chose not to get that evidence that would have proven his point. And it seems like yeah, because it would have debunked his point, so he just left it out. And it was yeah, it was really strange. Like, and that was the case on like 10 different things. Like we found it just over and over and over. He was just ignoring all of the evidence that proved he was wrong. um
Well, sure. So look, here's how I look at it. I don't disagree with anything you just said. I mean, these little random content creators that nobody really, I mean, besides Denim, North Star Radio, and I mean, Mike P from PA. I mean, these in the grand scheme of things, Hasan, Destiny, H3H3, Vosh, these are humongous creators. Like in the grand scheme of things, these other people are like little tiny, tiny, tiny orbiters. I mean, how many videos have you think have been made on Hasan that have misrepresentations of facts, or the little
mhm.
things that are wrong here and
Yeah.
there? That's really not my biggest concern here. My thing that I want to talk to you about was like what Ethan Klein is doing, and I think he is. And this isn't concern trolling or whatever you guys say. This isn't like me saying like, "Oh, he shouldn't do this. I'm worried about him. Like, I'm worried about his mental health." This isn't one of those things. Like, I used to watch H3 probably just as much as anybody else. Like, I caught all his old videos back in 2016, 17. I've heard you talk about some of his old stuff, so I know you used to watch them too.
No, no, I never
And
watched
seeing
them
that,
before.
I thought I've heard you talk about some of his older stuff, like
Yeah, I
Vape
said that I
Nation and shit like that.
well, so I never saw it. I still, to this day, I don't think I've seen it. I know that these are things that were like brought up, and so I talk about the fact that like he is like an OG like
Gotcha,
YouTuber,
gotcha.
but I only
Yeah.
watched like one thing, and that was after
Okay.
he was already doing like podcasting. I think I watched him interview Jordan Peterson or something like that, and and just didn't like him and couldn't really stand him, and so that was the only thing I saw up until like the last couple years.
So looking back at it, like a lot of his comedy doesn't really hold up. Like it's very, very niche and like absurdist and like stupid and goofy. It's corny. I don't find it funny anymore. But 10 years ago, it was amusing or whatever.
Hmm.
But back then, he used to always make commentary videos on people and their behavior and
Hmm.
like lol cows and like doing this is stupid because you're going to draw this attention. Anybody who's been on the internet for this amount of years knows that this is absolutely ridiculous, and
Yeah, I think
and he
one
would
of the
just he
things he's
was
talked
very
about is the
effective
fact
at
that if
going after
somebody's,
people.
I think one of the things he's talked about is that if somebody's doxing you, like you shouldn't talk about it because you're going to end up giving them the attention,
Absolutely.
and that
Oh,
if
he
they
knows
swat
this
you, you shouldn't
100%.
talk about it. But then today I said, I was like, yeah, it's weird that he's talking about this. I guess I can maybe make sense of it to like an extent that he's like, people are calling CPS on him. If he's like actually suing them, then this is it makes sense to like come out with a statement on this or something. The but yeah, he's it does seem a little strange that there are things that he's said in the past like not to do, and then now he's doing a lot of
Well,
that shit.
yeah, that's the thing. It's more than a little strange. So like, we go through the progression of he switches to the podcast format. His audience revolts. They hate it. He gets just a ton of backlash, loses a lot of fans, but he keeps at it and he grows a new, more progressive, I would guess, say his fan base. Because before he was like the edgy, kind of like iDubbbz esque, kind of content creator, calling out the SJWs and that whole thing.
Hmm.
He wasn't like hardcore, but he definitely had a stance and built an audience, and he noticed it. And I don't think he liked it. He didn't like the audience he built, so he slowly started to make changes, and then he started to grow more of like a left leaning audience. And
Hmm.
that that is going to get you into another kind of trouble because now you got to watch what you say sometimes. Like you
Hmm.
can't, he had the whole thing where he was the N word, F word slur put together. He just said that freely for like a whole podcast episode. It was crazy. He just said it freely, got backlash for that, whatever. All right. So, but fast forward, he decides to start a podcast with like the biggest leftist content creator on the internet,
Yep.
the biggest, hands down, no doubt about it, right?
Yep.
Claims he doesn't know his politics. Okay, I think that's a lie. First of all, that is a 100% lie. How do you not know who Hasan is and what he's about? You thought he was a social democrat?
I don't
Okay,
know. I
whatever. All
think
right,
that Hasan is
let's
pretty
just take him
good
at
at
face
like
value.
hiding that. Because even the other day we
Sure,
were watching Dean Withers
Theo
go
Fine.
talk to him,
Oh, Dean Withers.
and and then we didn't actually watch it. We didn't watch the conversation, but I just saw that they talked. Then a couple days later, Dean was like, "Yeah, he's always like hitting me up and like inviting me out to go hang out with him in California, and like we talk a lot and blah blah blah." And then he watched the Hasan nuke, and he watched Hasan over and over say, I hate liberals. Liberals are the worst. They are the worst people ever. I seriously hate them. They're scum of the earth, blah, blah, blah. And he's sitting there like, what the fuck? What is this, Hasan? Like, what is, you hate liberals? Like, what is going on? And then,
Yeah,
and
but
then Dean does this
that's
thing where
not
he's
really
like,
how he
well, I don't
feels,
know.
though. Like,
Yeah, so he is, oh, I don't know, like maybe this is like a little different. Maybe he's like just like in the moment
clipped
or
out of
something like that.
context.
Camacho tipped
Yes,
$5.
yes. But then they showed a clip. The person who clipped it shows a clip from then Hasan a couple days earlier on Dean's show talking to Dean, where he says, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not a communist. Like, so I don't believe the sort of like communist stuff that those people believe." And it like you unironically said this to
I
fucking
don't think he's a
Dean.
communist. I think he's a communist sympathizer for sure, but I don't think he is a co communist. But I don't watch enough of Hassan's content to even know myself. But what I do know is if I was to start a podcast with him, you better damn well know that I've watched at least 30, 40 hours of his content. I know who this guy is, especially if you get into like a big multi-million dollar like thing with them. Like they made a lot of money off that shit. So
Mhm.
Ethan, that he was at one time considered the king of YouTube, like the king of the internet. Like he can handle any situation. He had an epic lawsuit, the fucking DMCA lawsuit. He was epic and all that, and
Mhm.
he knows his way around the internet. But he starts a podcast with a guy who he doesn't know. But okay, let's just take him at face value. Okay, and then October 2nd, 7th happens, and he wants to play victim. Like, of course, Hassan is not going to side with like a country who is doing what Israel's doing, and it's not surprising. Okay, Ethan decided he couldn't continue with the podcast, but then, all right, in the
But just to be
podcast, it's
clear, they
fine.
were
What's
having
up
like
until this point?
a lot of like problems leading up to that. Like people had been saying like, "Oh, this show's over" for like maybe 2 months.
People
Yes, but I'm saying that like
that those are
there had been a
Destiny's
lot
community.
of like no, I don't think it was
Let's
Destiny.
be
I don't
real.
maybe, but
Let's be
I'm
real.
saying the watching them
No.
see that there's like serious ideological issues when they were talking about like why socialism doesn't make sense, and then why why like the Uyghur genocide was a serious problem, and then talking about why Russia shouldn't be like we shouldn't
Right, but
have
did
like Russian
Hassan say anything
apologia,
to?
and then talking about
Yeah,
Taiwan, and then talking like it
sure.
was just like a one after
But
another,
did he
day
say
after
anything
day.
to end the podcast off over? Like, did he say anything like, "Oh my god, I cannot podcast with this guy anymore"? He said that Taiwan, deserved what they got or whatever the fuck he said. I don't know. It's some
No, he literally
retarded
said, he
foreign
was like, no, we're
political
gonna
speak.
have like disagreements. We know that we can have disagreements, but that we agree on like the majority of things. But then I think, yeah, later he
Which
started
they
to realize, oh, we
do.
don't actually agree on the majority of things, and that
But
we
they
are like
do
in
though.
different
But they
places.
do. What? So Ethan don't know the first thing about fucking Taiwan. How does he know he's in a different place than Hassan? And then me and you had that whole conversation about the fucking Uyghur genocide. Like, Ethan doesn't know the first thing about what the fuck's going on in that part of China. And I think Hassan has at least read about it. He's at least you can at least have a educated conversation with him about that topic. Ethan doesn't know shit from shit. So for him to say, "Oh, I fully disagree with this guy because he has communist views," but he doesn't even understand his views, right? It's one thing to disagree with somebody politically. You need to understand their position fully. It can't just be like, "Oh, communism bad. I live in the USA. This is a capitalist country, so communism bad. Communism bad." Like, oh, it's fine to have that position, but at least argue it out.
Well,
Destiny,
no, I think he
you.
did. He did
There's probably
argue
a
it
lot of
out. They
people who
did
would
have
have
those
no,
arguments. They did have those
but
arguments, but
Ethan had
I
no.
think that even with the like Uyghur thing, like there was only one statement that he made that I thought was like kind of like out of pocket, and that was that they were Uyghur death camps. And I think that that's what I've said for a long time
That
is that the
shows his
way
lack
that
of
people
understanding
say
of the situation.
sure, but that's I also think that like that's why I say that like I think there's like a bit of a problem when we say like words like genocide and we're not using like a colloquial usage of it but instead like the UN definition of genocide or something like that that this is going to cause a lot of
Wait,
confusion for a lot of peoples because it's not they are just
wait,
like
what do you
very
mean?
different.
What's the difference? What is the difference between the colloquial definition and the UN definition?
So the UN definition, the colloquial definition is that like you're killing off a group of people, like intentionally trying to like end this group of people, like end a ethnicity, end a race, end a culture. Like you're purposefully trying to kill them all, right? Whereas like the UN definition is you're ending them, even if you don't kill them. So a cultural genocide is just a genocide. It's not a cultural genocide. It's just genocide. Whereas the Holocaust
Sure.
is also just a genocide. It's not a mass murder genocide. It's just a genocide. They're both just genocides. And so I think that like this is where a lot of confusion comes in when we talk about Palestine, where like people are like, no, obviously this is a genocide. It's like, okay, obviously, yes, under the UN definition, for sure. It's like it's definitely a genocide. Under like the way that most people would use it, no, it's not really a genocide, but this is like why I talk about this a lot is to say that like these are different definitions that mean slightly different things, but in totality the like moral implication is the same that you're ending a group of people.
Okay. So do you think that Hassan defends the like Uyghur genocide or the cultural genocide?
I think that he downplays it. I think that he whitewashes it, and I think that he has continuously like put out misinformation about it that shows that like he's trying to downplay it to some extent, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why.
All right. And is there a what's your moral issue with that?
That it's. I mean, I hate to like always use this, but it's just like it feels like the easiest like example to give for people to understand. But it's yeah, it's kind of like you know Nick Fuentes downplaying like the Holocaust. It's just it feels like when you're refusing to actually admit like how bad things are and instead you want to make it seem like oh well it's not so bad. This is it seems if the facts are on your side then fine, like that's fine, but I've gone and caught him numerous times quoting articles that didn't say the thing that he said they said, and then watching him read the article on stream. And I know he knows that it didn't say the thing that he said. And that, and so, yeah, I don't know if he like misremembers these things for some reason, but I do know that he's quoted one AP article 10 different times to say that the AP article proves that the genocide is over, which that is not what the AP article says at all. And that's why he says it's tourism hour. It's tourism hour in Xinjiang. Like it's tourism hour, bro. He's quoting that AP article when they're using it like sarcastically to say like they're trying to make it look like it's a tourist place while they're still genociding these folks.
But I think you're making the same mistake that a lot of people make is taking one quote or two quotes or three, four or five quotes that he said when he's done expansive hours long coverage of this issue where he's fully fleshed out his opinion, he's given his serious opinion, he's given his meme opinion, he's joked about it, he's whatever, but
Right, but
it always
the
seems like
part where I
it's
started
not his
thinking there was
real
a problem
position that
is in his full conversation with Ethan, where the whole conversation seemed to be him downplaying the Uyghur genocide the
well, it sounded
whole
like he was
time.
trying to correct American misinformation. Because Ethan was under the impression that they were in death camps, right? And so Hasan was kind of like that,
And he
like, yes,
said,
he
no, no, no,
downplayed
no.
that because it's not true, but he was pushing, like, he that wasn't where the tourism hour came from, comment came from, right?
It's
He was
no,
giving
but
his
no,
like
no.
nuanced take.
No,
Mhm.
in both clips, he's claiming the same article. In both, he's when I say he's used this
Right, right,
article
right. But when
to
he
justify
references
his
his
position,
right, no,
he's doing
I
it
got you.
in the one that I was talking about. But in that clip, after Ethan says, "Oh, well, aren't those like death camps or whatever?" He's like, "No, man. The like even what they were doing wasn't like ever death camps." But this has been over for a while. Like a AP article kind of like showed this a long time ago. They're like, yeah, this is a great AP article that the media is just ignoring right now because they don't want to acknowledge that like the genocide is over and that they've kind of stopped doing all of that stuff and it's just kind of been fixed. But then, yes, you go back and watch him read it on stream, and he seems to know that that's not what they're saying when he read it. Like, he knows that's not
Sure,
what they're saying. It's very clear that that's
sure.
not what they're saying.
Right. So I'm not here to argue that Hassan is the ultimate truth sayer. Like, his word is gold. I'm not here to even begin to offer that argument. What I am saying is that um, he has a certain viewpoint on the world, like I always say, and his viewpoint isn't less legitimate because you don't agree with it, right? Or it's not.
No, 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 I'm
He
not.
doesn't
Hold
make
on.
him. It doesn't
That's not
make
what I'm
him.
saying.
No, no, I know. I know that's not what you're saying. I'm not accusing you of saying that. And when I say you, that's like the anybody
Okay.
who has criticisms. That's not you in particular. Like if
Okay.
for people that have um criticisms for Hassan, it seems like he's now an evil person because people don't agree with his political takes. Okay,
Hmm.
he's downplaying the genocide in China. I've seen people downplay the genocide in Gaza. I've seen people, defend Russia. Does that make them an evil person? Right? Like Destiny said that the guy who made the reason that the Trump supporter at the rally deserved to die is because found a tweet of him supporting Putin, and that justifies his heartlessness towards that guy.
Yeah, but
Um,
I
I,
would
I
say that,
just
like, yes, listening to Tulsi Gabbard or like Candace Owens, like just their takes on Russia alone, I think their takes are evil. Like, I think that they are purposely pushing
how?
misinformation and like rhetoric that is.
Wait, okay, you saying purposely. I mean, pushing misinformation, I kinda agree with, but you're saying purposefully.
Yes, I don't. So when we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard, somebody who is literally right now the head of intelligence for the United States, okay,
Mm-mm.
we're we're
No, we're talking
talking
about the firefighter.
we're talking about somebody who has all the possible information on this they could possibly want, right? Yet they are
Hasan is
still pushing
anti-West.
shit
Said it himself.
that as like thoroughly debunked, and they've been saying this before they were the head of the intelligence. They've been saying this afterwards, that there is zero evidence for it. There's no evidence for any of this shit, and it's literally word for word exactly what Candace Owens is saying about this stuff. And when I went and did my video on
Okay, so you're
Candace
saying
Owens stuff,
Tulsi is evil.
I well, I'm saying both are pushing talking points that if they're because even I think Candace Owens, she went to school for journalism. This is a chick who knows
Sure.
how to engage in this topic. She's not fucking stupid. She knows how to do it. She's just not doing it.
Is she
She's
evil?
somehow
Is she
doing
evil,
it.
though? That's the question.
I think the point in this is that when I look at people who seem to know better yet are doing it anyways, I start to feel like there's some intent there. And I feel like when I say I watch Hasan read the article on stream, understand the
Mhm.
article, and then still later hardcore misrepresents the article, even though at the time, in the moment when he read it on stream, he understood it. But somehow, if I wanted to be nice and charitable, I'd say, oh, he just misunderstood it. But I watch him read it.
No.
I know he didn't
I
misunderstand
don't
it.
even believe
I
that.
know he
Yeah,
understood
no, I
it.
don't believe that either.
So
Sure.
So it's yeah, so now I'm
I agree
putting
with
a
you.
level of intent behind what it is that they're doing. And now I'm saying, yeah, this is like this is purposeful. It's not just a misunderstanding. It's not an ideological difference. It's not something that like it's just confusion. It seems
So if
intentional.
you intentionally push propaganda, then you are evil.
I suppose I don't know what you mean by evil. Like, what I feel like we do this a lot where
No,
we like
what
get
do
into
you
like
mean by
evil.
well, okay, so here's what because okay, okay.
I'm
So
saying
there's
like
videos that are
malicious. I'm
like
saying like it's
Hasan is on
purposefully malicious
okay, sure,
in nature. Yeah.
sure, sure. Okay. Now, this always goes back to how is that different than any other content creator? Honestly, how many content creators can you think of that do not have an agenda that tell the absolute like most unbiased version of whatever truth that they're talking about? Like how many content creators do you know that honestly do that?
Well, the I don't know that they're all doing it maliciously though. That is the difference. It's
Okay.
like I do think that like there's a lot of people that I'll find and I'll think, yeah, like they seem to like fuck up. They don't understand this. They're not smart enough to get this. They're
So who do you
kind
think's
of
doing it
dumb. Like
accidentally? Like who you like who's an example of that?
well, I said earlier that like Ethan, when it came to like his Hasan nuke, he had to take some L's on like some of the shit that he said or some of the things that he got wrong. That like
So you don't think
the
Ethan's being malicious?
what malicious in the like that he's trying to hurt somebody unreasonably. No, I think that like he is trying to like get people to understand something that he believes to be true about Hasan, whereas I think that other people, when they've like been shown that they had like an out of context clip and yet they still refuse to back off of it and still repeat the claims, yes, I would say at that point they are being malicious. Like they are,
Sure, I agree
they
with
know
you.
that
They're
they're
being
lying.
malicious, but okay. So, but now we're on to what if Ethan is being malicious with his claim. So, I agree with you that Hassan can be malicious. I agree with you that there's a lot of content creators that can be malicious with misrepresenting facts, with pushing their agenda, with propaganda, all that with good shit. I think we watch a million of. I can't think of any that we don't watch that don't do that. Now the question is, are they malicious or not? I think Ethan is malicious in his attempts to take Hassan down simply because he disagrees with his political opinion. It's one thing to express your disagreement. It's one thing to end a podcast. I can even get behind that. But he has had unfettered, unhinged, almost unprovoked attacks on Hassan for the last year. And what are you going to see? Clips of Hassan saying, "Damn, I wish that guy would stop talking to me about me. Like, damn, like we broke up, but like it's not that deep, bro. Like, damn, we got different political opinions, but like let me live my life." And Ethan just didn't stop. Oh, Hassan's subreddit is making nasty comments. Oh, Hassan's chat, Hassan's mods, everybody but Hassan, and Hassan is being assigned all this blame as an evil person simply for a political disagreement. And this is coming from Ethan. Like you have nuanced takes on Hassan, and I see you flesh them out all the time. I'm not accusing you of any of that. I'm just saying what Ethan has been doing has been unhinged, and it's not even by our standards, it's ridiculous because um, if you go to Hassan's channel right now and you type in Ethan or Destiny or anybody, you might get one or two or three or four videos. But if you go to their channels and type in Hassan, it's literally flooded with obsessive behavior. And I don't see how Ethan can sit here and cry victim when he's picked a fight with the whole left, the entire left, everybody who's left the fucking Destiny, he's picked a fight with, and he is sitting here crying because he said that CPS told him that his housekeeper called CPS on him, and he's blaming Hasan. And the quartering today comes out with a video blaming Hasan for CPS getting called on him, and we're blaming Bad Empanada, who lives in Argentina, wherever the fuck he lives at. And my point is, Ethan knows better than to pick a fight with half the fucking internet and then sit here and cry foul, right? You picked a
Wait,
fight. You've. Yep.
I don't
Go
know
ahead.
about that one. What
I
was
I
that?
was waiting for
What?
you to interrupt me.
Well, I don't even know
Go
about
ahead.
that one. What do you? What was the housekeeper one? What was that?
So Ethan said, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. He said that CPS told him that his housekeeper called them on him. or his housemate or whatever. When he was introducing the story, when he was talking about it on his podcast, he said, CPS came and they told me that my housekeeper was worried about our children's safety, and then a couple
no,
days
no,
later
no,
we
no.
have
I don't think that.
wait, okay, go
I don't.
uh, ca
Maybe
could you
I
pull
that's
up
not what I heard. So just real quick, I'm gonna say what I thought is that he said that these people did these videos where they said that they were that this was what was happening, and then in the video they're saying that like, oh, he just like doesn't even take care of his kids and leaves the kids with the housekeeper, blah blah blah. And then they said that somebody called CPS after Bad Empanada and Denims put out their videos saying that the kids got like Giarga or whatever it was, and
Mhm.
and and the CPS people said that the person who called CPS claimed to know them and know that this was happening. And so I from what I heard, he was saying that yes, it is, um, it was Bad Empanada and Denims who were doing this. I didn't hear him blame Hasan for this, but
Hold on.
I'm
I'm about to send you a timestamp. Hold on. Give me
okay.
1 second. Got you. Alright, go ahead and pull this up.
This Philly guy sounds like a bad empanada.
Oh, Discord wants to operate. Wait, what happened? Okay. Paste. Alright. So check that out.
Did you send it to me?
Shit, did I?
Just
Yeah.
tell me when. Yes.
Yeah, I sent it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
On Friday, explaining
An anonymous call went into them on the 3rd, saying that they were somebody that works at the house, and they wanted to report us because our kids are crawling around eating dog
Okay,
shit.
I got
and
that wrong.
getting
An anonymous
viruses.
call
Ethan
said
then
that
going on to say
somebody
that
that works at the house. Okay. That's what he said.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I was saying is I think that like his belief is that it was the videos that were put out by them, Bad Empanada and Denims, and then like somebody claimed to have been like a worker there or something, but that they didn't really, that they were probably just like one of these fans that did it.
Okay. And we both agree that that's super, super fucked up for whoever did do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So now, if you're Ethan Klein, do you go make a video about it? Do you go on stream and talk about it?
It depends.
Or
So
do you
that's what I
just
was
shut the
saying is
fuck
that
up?
I think that if he's actually like engaging in a lawsuit here, I think that that makes sense. And I do think that like, so when we're talking about like swatting and shit like that, I think that lots of times when somebody's trolling you, they are hoping that you go and mention this, especially when they're doing it anonymously. They're really hoping that you mention it, because lots of times when somebody swats you, there's just no way to know who did it, and so therefore there's no recourse there. There's nothing you can do about this,
True.
and all you're doing is just giving them attention, unless you can go find a streamer who's encouraging people to swat you. And then now I would definitely say, yeah, it's probably a good idea to go mention this and say, like, yeah, look, this is what's happening to me. I got swatted. And here you can clearly see these people are encouraging folks to swat me. Yeah, now I would say, yeah, I think that totally makes sense to do at this point.
I'm impressed at Tom's ability to keep playing and pulling up links and chatting to Philly. Not being sarcastic, the game has no. Oh, okay. She's talking about your game.
It's taking a long fucking time.
All right, sorry, Mandis. Yeah, I mean, but how is he gonna prove? Like, okay, Bad Empanada, or that's what we're talking about. That's the streamer he's pointing this all towards, or and Denims.
And Denims. And so when Bad Empanada says it, she starts saying stuff about like, oh yeah, like this is dangerous for his kids, somebody should call CPS. And then you see he shows the chat where there's literally hundreds of people saying someone needs to call CPS,
Yeah, I saw
someone
that.
call Child Protective Services, they need to get their kids taken away, this is how they're horrible parents, how
I
dare
don't.
they, like they're saying all of these things. And so
Mm,
yeah,
I did see a lot of call. Yeah, I did see like bad parents call CPS and all that. But the way Ethan explained the story is his kids got sick from crawling around on. They got this
Giardia,
Giardia,
Giardia, yeah.
Giardia, which it's a parasitic infection that you mostly get from eating fecal matter. Like that's the main way you get it. You can get it from
Hmm.
other ways, but that's the main way you get it. Ethan
Yeah.
has also explained that his children, his dogs. Well, did he say that his dogs poop on the floor, or did somebody else say that?
I think
Where did
somebody
that?
else said that. I think that they were just like he never specifically said that it came from poop, but I don't think it's like ridiculous to like jump to that
He
conclusion.
joked.
But he
He joked
said,
that it
he
came from poop.
specifically said that it doesn't even have to be that. I don't think he said that they pooped on the floor, but he said later, he said we don't know like exactly where it came from. It could be anything though. It could be that a dog sat on a toy. It could be that a dog sat on the couch and they licked the couch. It could be from the dog shedding. It could be from like tons of things. And it's just like when kids get to certain ages, they just put everything in their mouth. And so you just have no idea, especially once they learn to crawl. They're walking and crawling all over the place. And you just like, you don't know what they put in their mouths at certain times. And so he's like, yeah, we don't know exactly what it came from. We just know that they have it. And this is not an insanely abnormal thing. And it's not hard to treat. And it's just kind of a normal thing that happens. And I said that too. As soon as I heard Denims talking about this, where she's like, kids can never get sick. This is they don't have immune systems. Their immune systems don't work, and if they ever get sick, it's always deathly. This is literally what she said. It's always deathly. It's always like a serious thing if they ever get sick. And I'm like, that's just not true, dude. She is just objectively wrong on this, like across the board. You
I
have
got you.
kids, like you know that that's not true.
I know, but my main thing is how can we say that it's coming from them? Like, I give it
So
to you. It's likely,
so
right?
so
It
I
is.
don't.
It's possible.
Yeah,
I mean, it
I
is probably
I don't.
likely, right?
I don't know either, but I do know that the problem is that we do know that what she did makes it to where it is more likely. And so even if we don't know for sure that it came from her community, we do know that what she did was insanely irresponsible, and that like this
No,
is
I wouldn't. No.
no.
I mean, we content creators talk about. They speculate on other content creators, whatever parenting ability, how they handle their day, how they
Sure, but
beat
when
on
it
their
comes to
wife,
like
how
actually
Steven Crowder
causing,
must be an abusive husband because we saw that 2-minute clip of him arguing with his wife. So I mean, people come to all types of crazy conclusions, but
yes,
what she said was like not that far off from the truth. I mean, how many memories do you hold from when you're 3 to 5,
well,
right?
okay,
Now,
that's a
talking
totally
to
different
CPS.
thing though. That's different. But I
Talking to CPS could be a traumatic. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's very different. But the part with like the Giardia, like I was talking about the fact that like I just had like a bunch of conversations with lawyers recently and many times, and I think I've even talked to you about this. So like the way that people are clipping me out of context and then making it seem like something's happening, that it seems pretty obvious. They know what they're saying isn't true, or they're doing it in such an irresponsible way to where they're leading an audience to believe something isn't true. And I can show that at the same time that they're doing this, that they are that I'm taking losses in revenue and losses in viewership, losses in like audience and crap like this. That like it's that every lawyer that I've talked to has said, like, yes, this is like actually like a really good case, that these are pretty like safe ways to like get to make a case that you're highly like likely to win and crap like this, that that unless
Yeah, I'm
there's
sorry.
like a way to show that it came from something else or shit like that, like you're able to make a really good case that it is almost definitely coming from them. And that and so I'm saying that in this case, while you're saying, well, yeah, people speculate about these sorts of things, in the Steven Crowder thing, I had numerous debates against people who were calling him abusive. And then I had numerous debates against people who were saying he's definitely not abusive. In both cases, I kept saying, we don't have enough evidence one way or the other. Like, y'all are running around making very strong statements about something that you don't have the evidence for. This is kind of insane. Like, that I was debating people on both sides of this because I was saying, yeah, you just do not have the information that you're claiming to have.
Yeah, and Ethan doesn't have the information to claim that this came from those communities, or if all right, let's just say it did come from Denim's community, right? And by some miraculous way, he does find the person who does it. Like, do you think he has legal recourse here against the person who called CPS? Because
100%, yeah.
he said on his stream that he thought that his kids had a bacterial, or excuse me, a parasitic infection that comes from fecal matter, and
100%
his kids
yes.
crawling around on the
And I
floor,
think
and then made a
it's
joke about the only way you can get it is from eating poop. That's the joke he made on his stream. He said that out his mouth. Now, are people being malicious? Probably. Are people being bad faith? Of course. But listen, bro, you have a 4 million sub YouTube channel that you stream to 3 times a week, 3 hours a day. You're gonna you talk a lot, and you have to be very, 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 very extremely careful what you say, especially, like I said, when you're at war with half of with the whole entire left wing of the political spectrum. You know what I mean?
yes,
Not
but I
do
don't
you not
think that he declared war against all those people. I
he
think that
did.
he
He
went
did.
after
He can't.
Hasan and they all
And
decided to pick
Frogan.
that up
And
and go after
Frogan.
him. Yeah,
And
sure.
Denims.
Yes, but that's attached to Hasan. He's the claims
And
against
Vosh.
Frogan
And
were
Keffels.
claims
And
against sure,
everybody
but
else
those
before
those are
that.
separate things. Those are all separate things. Like each one of these things are separate. Where when we're talking about him
Sure.
going after Hasan, he's going after Frogan to go after Hasan. When he's going after Vosh, like
Sure.
Vosh literally pulled up fucking Wally shit on his computer. Like everybody went after Vosh on that
I'm
one.
not
Like that
saying he's
was
wrong for doing that. I'm saying as a big
what is
content
the
creator who knows everything that we're talking about, you cannot cry foul, or sit here and make videos crying about how the internet's picking on you when you are picking on half the internet. Like, you are the one starting fights with half the internet. There's so many content creators that didn't say anything about Vosh. Yes, it's a juicy, interesting story to talk about, but he didn't have to do that. He decided that's what he was going to do.
I'm
Now
sorry, but
all of
is it
Vosh's community I'm
that's
sorry, hold
I
on.
just
Now
don't
all of
agree with
Vosh's
this.
community hates him. What do you
I
mean you
don't
don't?
I don't
It's the
agree with
what
this.
don't
Like
you agree
you're
with
saying that
what?
these are like okay, these are different things. So we're talking about a couple of different things here. One is like a
But what don't you agree
pragmatic
with?
outcome. You're talking about a pragmatic outcome, right? I'm talking about
Sure.
like a right or wrong outcome. So let's say
Okay, I don't
just
care about
hypothetically,
right or wrong.
yes, just real quick. Let's say hypothetically, somebody claims that I was a sex pest, just like out of nowhere, and we have clips of them admitting that they're lying about it and that they know that I'm not a
Let's
sex
just
pest, but
let's
they
just
just want to.
pretend for 1 second that
Yes, let's
happened.
just
All right, I
pretend
got you.
for a moment that this happened, okay? And we have like yes, all these clips of them admitting that they're lying and that they're just like slandering me and shit, right? Um, if I turn around and defend myself against these claims, while it's clear they are trying to lead people to believe this, while also trying to like claim some plausible deniability so that they don't actually like have to be held accountable for it. Like, oh, I don't really believe that. Well, what? Me? No. So if I turn around and I start calling them out for it, I think if somebody turned around afterwards and they're like, yeah, dude, like I don't think you can be mad that they went and clipped you out of context a bunch more times to try to lie about you more and say that you were a sex pest when you did go after them for lying about you in the first place. Like that's kind of you should have seen that coming. It's like, well, okay, sure. Like, yeah, I maybe pragmatically, but that doesn't mean that I don't have the right to be upset about it when they do continue lying about me.
So
Like,
I'm
I
not
think it
claiming that
makes sense.
Ethan doesn't. So when I say he doesn't have the right to cry foul, what I mean is he doesn't have the he can't sit here and expect sympathy from anybody when he has, like I said, literally caused this by going after everybody, like in a joking manner, saying the wildest shit about people, insinuating that Hasan was some sort of sex pest a few weeks ago. Everybody forgets about that, but that was a thing for a couple of days. Like, he was trying to insinuate that Hasan was like Andrew Tate in some sort of way. Uh,
Mm.
like, when you do shit like that, you're gonna get people to hate you. And yes, when people hate you, they do unhinged things. Like, okay, here's a perfect example. There's nothing wrong with me
Sure, but
talking about
hold on,
gang
wait, hold
violence
on,
in
wait.
my
Before you
city,
continue,
right?
hold on. So if he's going after Hasan for being a sex pest, but
Mhm.
it is like unjustified in the way that he's doing it, and he's wrong,
It
then,
is. It was.
okay, yes,
And he
then
was.
that is what matters there. That's all that matters. Is like if he's wrong and he's doing this unjustly, then yes, like the morality of it matters, the right or wrong of it matters. Because if he's actually being attacked and is just defending himself, well, no, like nobody's gonna fault him for defending himself. You can't be like, well, you knew they were gonna come back and lie about you more if you defended yourself. Like, no, you should defend yourself. But then if you're saying, well, no, he's wrong in what it is he's saying, and so that's my criticism. Well, sure, then we should talk about whether or not
Well,
he's
what if you
wrong.
make
But
a
these are
content nuke? What if you make a content nuke accusing the whole of Twitch of being terrorist sympathizers and, being basically anti-Semitic? What if you do that? Do you think that's enough to get people to hate you or not?
Twitch, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay, so all right, so we got that, and now people at Twitch, he's accusing people at Twitch of now, um, calling CPS on him for things he said on his podcast.
When you
He
say
never said
people at
any
Twitch,
of
you're
this
talking
on his
about like Twitch
Denims.
streamers. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Denims. Yeah, people. Yeah, yeah. And I think Bad Empanada streams on Twitch, doesn't he? I don't watch him. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know either. But all I'm saying is you reap what you sow, and especially if you're running around accusing the biggest leftist content creator of being anti-Semitic, of being a terrorist sympathizer, of being a sex pest, of all these things that a lot of people
Yes, but
don't agree
again, that's
with.
what I'm
I don't
still the
agree.
same thing. It's
Hasan's a
whether or not the
terrorist
claims are
sympathizer.
justified. Like because I do think like the when you're saying like,
So
yeah, of
is the
course they're gonna
claims
come
that
after you. It's again, I'm gonna be like, well, if he's right and he's calling them out for something that's like fucked up, I don't think that we can like sit here and defend
well, I
the
don't think
people
he's
who
right
were
that
wrong
he hosted
for.
terrorists on his streams. Do you?
Well, yeah, we've had this conversation a bunch of times. Yeah, of course.
No, we had it one time, and I thought came to the same conclusion that at the time, the Houthis were not designated as a terrorist organization. So Hasan technically was not hosting a terrorist, and he's never done it before or since. So I don't think he has a thing for hosting terrorists. Yes, this is exactly what we went over one time. We talked about it, and I thought we both came to the same conclusion that that was a weak claim. But here we are again, still claiming that he hosted terrorists when he didn't.
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
All
Because
right.
yeah, I
Well,
thought
here's a
they.
question for you. Here's a question for you. A lot of people look down on. I had an interview with a person on my YouTube channel. He was accused of murdering people in the city of Philadelphia. Horrific things. You know, he's hurt. He's hurt tons of family, and this is tangible. Um, this is tangible damage he's done to people in my city. And I gave him a fair interview. I wasn't sitting there saying he was the greatest person ever, but I gave him a fair interview. Is that wrong? Like, am I like an evil person now because I considered his perspective on his reality in this world?
No.
Okay. So if I would have joked around with him about his name being a play off of anime of The Last Airbender, if I joked with him about that, would there be something wrong with that?
No.
Okay, so this is how I feel about Hasan interviewing that Houthi kid. Like,
Yeah, but this is why
was it
afterwards
right?
we went over the fact that
hmm
people bringing up the fact that this is the case, and he keeps saying, no, he never said anything anti-Semitic. No, this guy isn't actually a terrorist. No, he's not actually a Houthi. No, he isn't. He's literally Anne Frank. You guys are attacking this kid, and he's literally Anne Frank. Like these are the
Okay,
things
but that's not what
that
I'm talking
totally
about.
change
No,
the
people were
context. I
attacking.
know that's not what you're talking about.
Uh-uh.
I'm saying,
He
hold
was.
on. I'm saying
This is
that
all in response to people attacking him for for
Hold on.
the
Yes, no, hold on,
the
Let me
wrong
let me
thing.
get through this. Hold on,
Ask
because
about why Ethan's
I
link was banned for
I'm
showing
saying
Hasan's content
that
and Hasan's
when he
content
brings
wasn't.
this person on
Same videos,
and then
different content creators.
continues kind of like
Any
like
ideas
talking
on
about
bias?
the like defending them and defending that person, and then people say, well, hey, you know X, Y, and Z about this person, and he denies it. Well, I think that yes, if
Wait,
I
do
have
we know
somebody on my show,
he's a Houthi pirate?
I think that it is I think that
Okay.
it is
You
very,
think?
very likely.
Okay.
I think that it is insanely
Mm.
likely. I think it is very unlikely that they're like, hey, yeah, we're going to go do terrorism. Let's bring a TikToker along for the ride so that he can film us doing all of
Why is
our
that so
terrorism and film all
implausible?
of our
Come
faces and show.
on, bro.
No way. Bro, like,
Why? What? That is the way they would do it. That is the exact way they would do it. What do you mean?
I don't.
If you're the Houthis and you want to get your propaganda out or your side of your story out, whatever, your side of the message out, that's exactly how you would do it. You would find a sympathizer, you would find somebody who sympathizes with you, who's popular, who has a TikTok following. To them, that a million TikTok followers, you might as well be fucking Donald Trump out this bitch. Like they think you're fucking the most famous person. Yeah, you're on our side. Yeah, come film our ship. Come film it. I mean, that's plausible. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying we could think of situations where that would happen. Yes,
Yeah, I think he might have actually
and that
said that
with
he
their
was a Houthi, but either way, I think that
did he did he did
I
he?
think
Because
he
I've
did.
never seen. I've looked and looked and looked and looked, and I've never seen him
Um,
say that in
I
a
remember. So I vaguely
serious
remember
manner.
somebody showing him say, like, um, like because I'm Houthi or something like that. It was something not like a declaration. Hey everybody, come look at me, the Houthi, or anything like. It was more like well, because I'm Houthi, or we are doing this because we are Houthis, or like it was something like that. It was literally
Okay. This actually might be a distinction without a difference because I think Hasan would support him either way if he was a Houthi or not. I think
sure,
Hasan would
but yes,
support him. But
yes, but that
if he
is
was
important though,
designated a
right?
terrorist at
That's
the
important
time,
though,
he
right?
wouldn't bring him on this.
That's
But
important
if
though,
he was
right?
designated well, the charge is that he brings terrorists on his stream, and
No.
that's
Forget
his
him
thing
calling
is
him
to bring
terrorist.
terrorists
Forget him
on his
calling
thing.
him. I don't care if he calls him a terrorist. If instead I'm saying all of the bad things that people bring up about him, right? So like this is something that like happened with me bringing on Lav a while ago, right? Is that like I did have like fairly cordial conversations with her, and I think that like I pushed back on a lot of the stuff that she said that was wrong, but it was true that like there was a lot of stuff that I let slip through the cracks, and I didn't like push back against every little thing, right? But I said afterwards, I was like, yes, but I will like tell my audience very clearly that those things are wrong. I've already debunked those things that she was
Hasan
saying
introduced
in
him as
front of
that.
my audience. They
Tell
all
Philly to
know
watch the
that
content
I'm
link,
wrong,
LOL.
that she's wrong about these things,
I
right?
got you. I got you.
And afterwards, after like I
Yeah.
would continue to admit these things about Lav, and so to where people are like, well, you're leading your audience to believe, or you're allowing her to spread misinformation about Destiny to your audience. I'm like, well, no, I think I've been pretty good about like letting my audience know these things. It just may not be in the moment right then and there when she's here, but I think that like my audience knows what the fuck's going on. I think that that's the same
Right.
that I would
But
expect of
Tom,
him.
Tom,
But
Tom, hold
afterwards,
on.
when people ask him those questions about the guy, he won't even admit that he's a Houthi. He won't admit that he said these things,
Okay.
and continues to like deny
But
everything
the
that
charge
happens.
is that he broke TOS. He broke TOS by having the Houthi pirate on. That he broke TOS by doing that. Okay. And that okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't. That's not my issue, so I don't really know about
So
that
defending
as
of
much.
him afterwards is a little cringe. I wouldn't do that if I was Hasan. Um, I get where he's coming from. You've got literally the whole of the internet coming at your neck for doing something that you think in your mind is I, who knows what Hasan thinks. I can't say he thought it was the right thing, but he sympathizes with their side of things. Let's just say
Mhm.
that. And I think that side needs a voice, and we can't just try to crush that side anytime they
Yes, but okay, so
express their
we have to
belief.
just real
All
quick
right.
hold
He
on, because
believes
you
that,
do keep saying this,
yeah.
and this is my promise that if I'm giving you this like analogy to Nick Fuentes, and then after someone's like, dude, you just keep going after Nick Fuentes just because like you just disagree with him politically, or you keep going after Candace Owens just because you just disagree with her politically, like
Well,
it's not like
it
no, I
is a
don't, no, hold
political
on,
disagreement.
and then afterwards, then like somebody has Nick Fuentes on, and they're talking to him just about like comic books and like, crap like that. And just like, he's just a good old boy and they're just getting along and he just, that's all it is. And then people come to that person afterwards and they're like, hey, like he literally said that like any woman who dates a black man is like worse than a dog, and that like, intermarital or interracial relationships are like immoral and that they should die, and like that like he thinks that people should be punished by being stoned in the streets, and like you realize that he's like advocated for like Afghani type laws in the United States just with Christianity instead of Islam. And like I think that, yes, if the other person who did that interview with Nick Fuentes is like, what? Come on, man. He's literally Anne Frank. Like the guy's literally, he's out here fighting.
I'm sorry.
Like
These are jokes. You know that, right?
No, the Anne Frank
He
thing
does
was
not.
not a joke.
Do you think he? Okay,
It was not.
whatever. So Hasan. So do you think Hasan is out here pushing anti-Semitism?
Again, that's like we've talked about this before. It's like a nuanced thing. I think that like within the context of the way that things are said, I think that it is anti-Jewish people and is detrimental to Jewish people and discriminatory against Jewish people. So
Is it? Wait,
so
but no, no, no. That's just not true, because now you're mixing up Jewish and Zionist, which he clearly makes a distinction of every single time he speaks about this issue. So you can't just
mhm.
say he does this or makes life worse for Jewish people. He speaks against Zionism, which is an ideology, it gets distorted by depending on who you're talking to. But his
Myron
version
makes
of
a
Zionism.
distinction between uh being a black person and being a nigger. Do you think that he's being racist when he
Wait,
says these
don't
things?
get yourself kicked off YouTube. I know you're quoting
Well,
somebody. Just be
I'm
careful.
asking,
Of
do you
course,
think that
obviously, Tom.
he makes a
Obviously, there's a
distinction
difference
though?
between him saying those things. But he has also said how he feels about black people plenty of other times, right? We wouldn't just take him on that one quote. We would go look at his overall thoughts and
Right.
feelings on black people.
That's what I'm
And the
saying,
only
is that
time
I
I've
think
ever
there's
heard,
like enough of
yeah,
like a pattern of behavior with Hasan to where I think over time it leads me in that direction to where I think, yeah, it's just starting to get a little too muddied to where it's hard for me to say that this isn't the case.
okay. So we know he supports Palestine. He supports Palestine in this movement. We know the Houthis support Palestine. Do you think that his, support for the quote unquote support for the Houthis is more for their support of Palestine or the fact that they hate Jews?
I think it's more for their support for Palestine. Yeah.
Okay, so we know that's his political agenda, is support for Palestine. I
hmm
don't understand how we're going to conflate that and his anti-Zionist rhetoric with him hating Jews or being anti-Semitic. And you're saying it's a little fuzzy because he had that interview with the Houthis, when you just told me that you can kind of guess his motives for having that interview. So we can put that aside, right? We can't use that as a cudgel now that we've already kind of dispelled that from the thing. Do you have you heard him say other things or do other things that make you feel like he hates Jews?
Okay, so we went over this last time that like some of the posts that were from that Houthi guy, that he had some things saying that, because I do think that Zionists, like I said, like yes, they make a distinction between Zionist and Jewish person, but I do think in the context that they use it in, it does become like, it becomes fairly clear it is a dog whistle in a lot of cases, and that even Twitch, who everybody thinks is, anti-Israeli or anti-Semitic or whatever, even they ended up agreeing that actually, yes, like there are a lot of contexts where the word Zionist is being used as a dog whistle. And so they put it into their TOS that Zionist can be used as a racial slur, and that depending on the context, we're going to have to start like moderating how people use the word Zionist. And they made an
So
announcement
you
about
know that
adding this to their
I know
TOS.
all this time. I
Mhm.
know all this. This is irrelevant to my question about Hasan, but okay. Do you know that after they showed him that picture of the Houthi guy with the Jew with the knife that was and all that horrible tweet he made? Do you know after Hasan read that tweet, he got extremely frustrated because he saw he couldn't defend this guy anymore, and he never talked about him again. Did you know that happened?
No, where did you get that from?
I didn't get it from anywhere. It's just what happened. Like,
Wait, no.
I mean,
You telling me about his feelings and then telling me that that's what happened
the
is
clip. I don't know where I saw the clip was from, but I know that he has not talked about that Houthi guy again. I've not.
okay.
Well, let me put it like
Because
this. Let me
I
put it
feel
like
like
this.
in
I
the
have
clip
not
is
seen a
where
clip
he
of him.
says this is messed up. I have to defend the actions of some 17-year-old that I don't even know just because I had him on my show. And that was again him just kind of like
Ethan supports
ignoring
a
the
free
what
Palestine.
I felt like were
He
the
thinks BB's
actual like
agenda is
criticisms.
maniac. He says
He
the
saw the
settlers in the
horrible
West Bank
tweet
are
that
a
he
valid
couldn't
military
defend,
target.
and
Where do you disagree with
never
Ethan?
talked about the dude again.
Okay. I
All
thought
right.
the Anne Frank comment was after that. I could have sworn that the Anne Frank comment was after that, but maybe I'm wrong. Because it is all this happened like over a year ago now, so it's hard for me to remember the entire timeline of events. But
Okay, so we started this whole conversation because we're saying that Ethan is, or I'm saying that he's crying foul when he picked these fights, right? And then you're saying, well, no, if he's making credible claims against people, then he's not picking fights. He he's just doing what he's supposed to do, or he's fine.
mhm,
He's in the right, right?
yeah,
And he's been claiming that Twitch and Hasan are anti-Semitic, and his proof of that is the Houthi interview, um, Frogan, other people saying stuff, but very little about what Hasan has said or done that would make him seem to a normal person anti-Semitic. Um, Maybe it is enough to interview a Houthi pirate that Americans just turn their brains off and are like, well, he's anti-Semitic, he hates
again,
Jews,
I
no more
don't think that
analysis to
that's
do
the
here.
claim. Again, I think that like these are like
You
kind of
think I would think,
strawmans of
right?
what I
You
think the
just gave
actual
me
criticisms
a
are.
Myron quote off the top of your head. You've given me a Nick Fuentes story off the top of your head. Can you give me a Hassan story off the top of your head where he's being anti-Semitic? It shouldn't be
Uh,
that hard if he's this horrible
So again,
Semite that we need to get
no,
off
because
Twitch.
even with Myron, as you said, it's not the quote by itself. These are patterns of behavior that over time we know, based on the context of these things, that they're like that the sentiment feels very different coming
I can
from
give
them,
you 5
regardless
off
of
the
what they
top of
do.
my head, and
And
I've
so
done
yeah, so I was gonna
this
say, so
research
yeah,
with some
so if
laws.
I cannot give you one. But as I said, I can give you like the way that he used the word Zionist, and he's always using it as a pejorative. That it's always a Zionist pig
It
dog
is a
or
pejorative.
a Zionist.
Yes.
Well,
Yes. It's a horrible ideology. Yes. Do you disagree with that?
I don't know. Again, it depends on even how we're using the word Zionist, because to me, Zionist is just people who believe that like Jews have the right to self-determination and to have a place for themselves, and that the like because this is the place that they've chosen to do that at, that
Listen,
now
the
like they
Nazis
want
can
to
tell you the same.
defend.
The Nazis would tell you the same thing, bro. They would tell you the same
Yes,
exact thing.
but
The
the difference
same
is that the
exact
Nazis were
thing.
not genocided. The Nazis were not actually having people come after them. So the fact that they say the same thing doesn't matter. I hear black people say the same thing, and I think, yeah, that makes sense.
Wait,
Black
what?
nationalists have a lot
What
of
you just
claims
said
about
makes no sense.
the
Right now, Israel, the Zionists, have charges of genocide against them, just like the Nazis did. They have charges. Things
wait.
are
That's hold on.
moving through
That's
the
different. That's
international
different.
courts.
Yes,
How?
hold on. That's not what we're talking about. I'm sorry. we gotta
That
like
is what we're
slow.
talking
No, it's
about.
not. We gotta
Wait,
slow
no,
down
no.
because we're talking
Okay.
about what Zionism means, and then while I'm
Right.
explaining what it
And then I
means,
said the
instead of
Nazis would
disagreeing,
say the same
yes, and
thing.
instead of disagreeing with me on what it means,
So
you're
that
trying to
vague
tell me that it's
definition means
bad.
nothing.
No, yes. So
That
talk
vague
about that.
definition means
So
nothing.
okay, it
That
doesn't.
is what I'm
No,
talking
no, it
about.
doesn't.
What do
Hold
you
on,
think
hold
that
on.
analogy
No, it
meant?
doesn't. Hold on. So
What do
you
you
got
think that
seriously, you
analogy
got to
meant,
let me
Tom?
talk. I got to get a fucking sentence out because I can't explain why you're wrong if you don't let me like actually explain it. The whether or not like if black people after they like
Hasan
got out of
enables
slavery,
anti-Semitic
they
behavior
were
of his chat
actually
through
being
his mods.
genocided. They did
And when
have
he
like a
breaks
lot of problems
TOS
finding a
showing
place
Hamas
for themselves.
propaganda, there's
They
no
were
consequences.
like taken from their homes and their culture was taken from them, and their like all abilities to be a normal living society was completely gone. We did not have the ability. They did not have the ability to just normally integrate into American society. And then we see that, like, yes, but afterwards we have Jim Crow that makes it to where they are continuously being genocided after that. That yes,
Why are you
at the
giving
time
me
it would
why
make
why
sense
are
that
you
if
giving
at
me
the
a
time,
black history lesson right
just
now?
please let me get through this. That because they actually have a justified reason for what they're for wanting to have their own place or have a place where they can live peacefully and where they're no longer being genocided and where they have some protections and they can protect themselves and they can protect their culture and they can protect their people, that this makes perfect sense. But if instead we had the Confederate rednecks running around saying, you know, black people are moving into our towns, we need protection from them, we need to keep our culture and blah, blah, blah. No, I would say no. Like, you guys have no claim here. You have no logic here. Nothing you're saying is actually happening, so you're wrong. So you comparing what the Jews at the time when they start this state having a real claim to why they are afraid and why they have why they are in fear for their lives and why they feel like they need to have some like self-determination here, that makes sense. If you want to talk about way down the line, now there's another claim about like them being genocidal. Okay, yeah, sure, way down the line, different thing. But the Zionism is from this initial claim. The Zionism is the initial claim that they needed a place for themselves.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I'm going to say what I said again, right? That generic definition of Zionism, the Nazis could have said the same exact thing about their stated goals. It's not about what they say they're trying to do. It's what they're doing, right? Hasan's problem isn't with
Oh my
Zionism
goodness.
because they say.
I feel like you just
So you
ignored
just
everything that
went
I
on
just
for
said.
5 minutes
Yes, and you just ignored everything that I said.
and you
Explain why
wait, and
that's
you
wrong.
time out. You've
I just debunked that
gathered that
line of
opinion that
thought.
I've ignored you debunk what line of thought?
That line of thought.
You don't
I
even know what
just
I was gonna say. I got a half a sentence out.
okay. Good.
Okay, so fuck. Just remind me where I was again.
That the Nazis could have had that same line of thought.
Yes. Okay. So Hasan, back to Hasan. When he hears that definition of Zionism of we just want a place for Israel, for Jewish people to call home, we just want to protect ourselves. Do you think that that's what he's disagreeing with? That's the part of the ideology that he's disagreeing with?
No,
Seriously.
no. You said Zionism is a disgusting ideology. And I said, well, it depends
Yes.
on what we mean when we say Zionism, because like this, I think is pretty clear, like what most people think of when they say Zionism. And so I'm
You
saying
say
that
most
like it
people, but
depends.
it's not true.
It's not
Who
true
is
that
most
that's what
people? It's a
that like
it's highly contested debate in America right now, let alone across the world. Like, yes, people think Zionism is evil. You could type that in any search engine on any platform that you look up for information on, and you will see that is not that's not a niche concept. That's not like a small section of people think that. I think a lot of people think that what Israel is doing to achieve quote unquote Zionism right now is akin to genocide, right?
Yes,
What they're
these
doing
are
to the
I'm sorry,
Palestinian
this is what
people.
I'm
So
saying
when
is that I'm
people
trying to
say,
get
Stop
us
so when
to
people
get like
educating
say,
narrow this
define
down,
Israel,
and
Zionism
you're
because he
you're
sounds
on.
like a
so when
schizo.
people say, narrow what down? What Israel's doing right now?
No.
No.
Okay, I say
What do you
to
want to know
me,
now?
this is what Zionism means. And then you say
Right.
that's a highly contested subject as to whether or
Yes.
not what Israel is doing is wrong. Well, that's a different
Yes.
topic as to whether or not this is what
No,
Zionism
it's not.
means.
No,
Those
it's
are
not.
totally
No.
different things.
No. Israel's whole existence is based off Zionism. What? What are you
Oh,
talking about?
okay.
Zionism
So
and Israel are intertwined into a way where you cannot disconnect those two when you're talking about politics.
sure, but I'm saying
If
that
you want to talk about an Israeli person, okay, this person might not be. We're talking about Israel, the country, the government, their stated goals. We're not talking about the Israeli people or anything. So, like, when I say Israel, I'm talking about the government. I'm not talking about every single person in Israel. So yes, the stated government, the stated goal of Israel's government is Zionism. So we cannot separate those two. We could, just like we can't separate America and democracy. We can't separate America and some of our ideals and some of our ideologies. You can't
I
do that when
I
you're talking about that
understand,
on the
but
world stage.
I think that you have to. So if somebody says like because this is an argument that like I hear from the other side, right? So they'll say we um we don't like what is it called? Fuck, what is the thing where like they think they're like everybody's just hiring black people for jobs and
DEI,
DEI, yes. Okay, so we don't like DEI. And then I'm saying like,
or
well,
affirmative action.
that's it. Like whether or not you like DEI is one thing, but like you do understand that like these people do have some like systemic racism that like they're dealing with because of slavery, and they're like, bro, whether or not like slavery is even a real thing is highly contested. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? They're like, because that's everybody's excuse for why black people need all these different things, reparations, DEI, like it all comes back to slavery. Like whether or not we actually care about slavery is it's hotly contested because I actually don't like DEI and I don't like affirmative action and I don't like that, and it's always justified with slavery. Like, well, I still think regardless of whether or not you like DEI or affirmative action, slavery still has the same definition, still makes sense. We can still like talk about slavery by itself as a separate thing before we get into DEI and systemic racism and like all the other stuff. They're like, I I don't need to justify
I feel like you're a
Zionism.
little bit lost on what we're talking about right now.
I'm not.
Like, I'm not asking you to justify
I
it.
know.
I'm
I'm
asking you to
saying
justify the hate for Hasan for believing that Zionism is a filthy ideology. Justify the hate
correct.
for, or
Okay.
justify Hasan being, you know,
I know,
evil
but
or
when I
a
say
bad person
I'm
for saying
just
this
trying
thing.
to get us to like talk about the definition, and then I say this is the definition that I think most people use, and you say most people, this is a hotly contested subject as to whether or not that is what Zionism is, because people think they use Zionism to justify horrible things. Well, it does, regardless of whether or not they use Zionism to justify horrible things, that doesn't mean that this isn't Zionism. Like, we still haven't talked about what Zionism is or what it means. And now we're talking about whether or not they're using it in an immoral way to justify bad things. Like, I'm just trying to get down like what we're even talking
Okay,
about
when you
when we
hear
say the word
Hasan and
Zionism.
lefties, when you hear Hasan and other lefties talk about Zionism, they talk about the original the original movement by certain Jewish people, the ideology that Jewish people need a homeland for themselves, and to accomplish that, they moved to what is now Israel, but what used to be called something else, right?
Mhm.
Um, they moved there. They kicked those people out in different ways, methods, and manners over the years, kicked those people out, created their state, and now, I mean, like the act, what people refer to when they're saying Zionism is the act of moving all, of displacing all those people, of creating this homeland for the Jewish people, which required kicking out the Arabs and Palestinians that live there, right? Some people say it was a brokered deal. Some people say they bought the houses. All that stuff is hotly contested. But over the last, I'd say 20 years, what's not hotly contested is that over 200,000 Palestinians have been killed and
Okay, correct. So can you give me a
two or
definition
3,000.
for Zionism before we get there? Again, I don't want to talk about the morality of the thing if we can't even
I
get
just told you the
down.
whole creation of the Jewish state, which involves kicking out Palestinians, which involves everything that they're doing now,
Okay,
which is a genocide in a lot of
okay.
people's
So,
eyes.
so I, if we say they say that they have a right to like some sort of self-determination, but that they
Sure.
want a culturally like mixed state for Israel where everybody can live together and that like Arabs and Jews can all come together and govern together and live in similar neighborhoods and all go and pray at the same temples and at the wall, and that like they want everybody to live together peacefully. And that is their idea of Zionism, is that they are able to just start a state where they know they will have protections within their constitution, but so will Arabs, so will everybody based on race, and then now they can move forward with a new government and constitution that makes sure that everybody has these protections.
But that's not what they're trying to do. What they want in Israel is as few Arabs and Palestinians as possible and as many Jews as possible. The goal is not to create a mixed state that's fair for everybody that lives there. Their goal is to create a Jewish state fair for
Don't
Jewish
mention a
people
two-state
and
solution
only
to a
Jewish
Hasan
people,
fan.
and they are accomplishing that goal through endless wars, through destruction of any way for the Palestinians to live. They're not just killing people; they're destroying their way of life. They've been denying them food and water for 2 years now. They've destroyed all hospitals and infrastructures there. There's nothing that the Palestinians have done to the Jewish people or Israel that compares to anything close to that. Like, yes, bus bombings, intifadas, all that, but they didn't destroy Israel's infrastructure. They didn't destroy Jewish schools and synagogues. They didn't destroy Israel's
I'm
ability to
sorry,
get food and water.
Okay, so
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 that
what?
is
So
part
real
of
quick,
the Zionism that Hasan is
I
speaking out
understand.
against.
I
Yeah.
understand, but the type of like oppression that Nick Fuentes feels, he has a lot of facts for it. He has a lot of information on it. He has a lot of like historical information, different wars that were fought, different genocides he believes happened to them, but they're wrong. Like, it's always a
So
little twisted and a little bit different than what like the authorities would say on these things or what we know to be true. But his is like more of a fringe version of history that's a little bit twisted. I feel the same way with that version of Zionism, to where everything is just a little bit twisted versus what actually happened, out of context over and over. It takes away everything that happened to Jewish people, to where I can agree, yes, they did do that. That was fucked up. They shouldn't have done that. But that was in retaliation to these people doing this. And when they bombed that synagogue because the Hamas was literally living in that synagogue and putting all their weapons in that synagogue and putting all the, they bombed that hospital because they were putting all their weapons in there, and that they called ahead of time and said, hey, everybody get out of this hospital. We're getting ready to bomb it.
what
And
you're
everybody
describing
chose
is
to stay
collective
because they
punishment.
wanted to.
What you're describing is collective punishment. What you're describing is a war crime. I don't know why you use this as defense. I don't know why people always pull this out as a defense. What you're describing is a war crime, bro.
What do you mean? What does
Like,
that mean?
bombing a hospital with
Yeah.
civilians in it,
It is a
that's
war crime unless
collective
that hospital is being
punishment.
used to operate outside of as a place where they're attacking Israel from. If they are operating out of hospitals,
Okay.
then it is no longer a war
Besides
crime to bomb the
Israel, do
hospital.
you okay. Mm, Tom.
Mhm.
A lot of the information that you get, you have to be very, very sure on it. So, I don't know
Well,
which
there's
incident you're
gonna be
talking about.
there's gonna be
Israel's
different
done this
examples.
over
So
and
hold
over
on,
and
wait,
over again.
hold on. There's gonna be different examples. Some of these are gonna be examples where I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna say, yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. I can't believe Israel did that. That was horribly unjustified. There's no way that they can make that make sense. But then there's going to be a ton of other examples that people will throw in there as like one big group and say, yeah, these two. And well, no, not those as well. Those do seem to have some justifications to them. Some of these other ones do not. And that's where I think a lot of these things get mixed up, is that this is the same for the other side. The other side is going to have a bunch of instances where they're going and doing things that there's no way you can fucking justify this and make sense of it. Even if we do look and say, well, they were colonizing them. They were moving onto their land. They did continuously extend their borders. They did agree that they weren't going to live in this area, and then they did. And they did keep buying up houses and forcing people out. But then they went with machetes and chopped off a bunch of kids' heads and went to concerts and fucking like kidnapped like children. It's like, okay, yeah, that's still fucked up. They had a reason to be upset here. They didn't have a reason to do that. And I have that same criticism of Israel over and over. But I think that this is, yes, where I think that like the way that Hasan presents things.
Those are the same criticisms, though.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is I have the same criticisms of both sides. I don't think Hasan does. That's what I'm saying. He leaves out a lot of context to things to where he like,
because it's not equal on both sides. That's why. Like, why would it be the same on both sides? On 90%, the other side's doing it 10%. Why would he be sitting there like, oh, well, both sides, like it's like 20-1, more than that. What am I? The number of Palestinians killed to the number of Israelis killed is. We can just hold that number, but then we can also talk about the actual incidents. And
yes, but I feel the same way when
denying
we look at Russia,
Palestine
Ukraine.
food.
I believe Ukraine has killed way more Russians than Russians have killed Ukrainians. But
Is
when we
Russia
look
is
at
Russia
like,
denying Ukraine aid?
wait, what?
Is Russia denying Ukraine aid?
Well, no, they don't have the ability to. They could try, but
Are
they
starving their
wouldn't.
people?
Sorry?
Are they starving their people?
Yes, they are literally putting them. They actually are doing death camps. Like they are literally doing like a
So
Holocaust
the
level.
Ukrainian people as a whole right now being starved to death by Russia.
No,
My
not
claim right now
no,
is
no.
the Palestinian people as a whole,
Correct.
not some, not a portion, not 10%, 20%. The Palestinian people as a whole are being exterminated by Israel right now. And you're sitting here talking about hospitals getting bombed and shit. No, I'm talking about a whole people being literally starved to death, bombed to death, fucking choked from any way of living. And you're like, well, actually, Zionism, actually, they just want a place to live. Actually, they just want to protect themselves. We're talking about horrible war crimes being accused by almost every fucking national agency you can think of: the UN, Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, um, fucking Israel human rights organizations. Everybody's saying the same exact things, and you're sitting here like, well, no, actually, technically, there's people. There was Hamas in the building, so Israel could have bombed that hospital one time. But we're
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
sorry,
so
but
much
we
more
would
than
have
that.
to go over each one of these things one by one. Like
No, you
because
don't, bro.
yes, you do.
don't. You don't.
Because I don't agree with your
Unfortunately,
characterization of any of it. We would, yes. I don't think that's any of
No,
it.
it's not. You think I'm arguing from my firsthand
Ethan has said
reporting?
to always
Do you
keep
think
the
I've
plight
been
of
to
the
Israel or
Palestinians
Gaza
at the
to tell you
forefront,
what's
but you have
happening?
to have some
Because I'm
level
No.
of
not going
sympathy
off
for the
my
Israeli
reporting.
victims of
I'm going
October
off what
7th.
trusted
Yes.
international organizations
Correct.
who have
Me
been
too.
trusted on
That's
these things,
exactly correct. That's why I'm saying that we would
that's
have
how
to
where we get our
exactly.
these
Correct.
same
That's why
organizations we get our war stats from. They
yes.
are saying that Israel's doing a genocide right now. Those same people, and you're arguing with me saying I have to check every single instance. Like what?
No, no, no,
What
no,
do you mean
not each instance.
every
I'm
single
saying
instance?
so like when you say like was like they're not allowing Aiden, right? They haven't been allowing Aiden for like what a week, I think is at this point, and they're not allowing Aiden because they're trying to get the war to end, and Hamas is refusing to engage in the ceasefire, and because they're continuing to like bomb things while there's supposed to be a ceasefire and not handing over prisoners anymore. Now they're saying, okay, well, if you guys aren't gonna like abide by the agreement, then we're going to like put some pressure on you to make it to where you are more likely to stop fucking killing people so that we can get closer to peace. I think at that point, as long as it doesn't become like a month-long thing where they're refusing to allow Aiden and shit, I think that, yeah, it does make sense to use this to an extent to like bargain. This is why I'm saying that like each one of these things within context is very different based on what it is that's happening versus what it is that we just say, oh, they're just not allowing Aiden. Well, that.
All right, Tom, tell me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a couple of organizations, and you tell me which one you trust the most. Okay, Al Jazeera, CNN, The Guardian, the International Center for Transnational Justice, Voice of America.
It depends. We
Barron's
just the other day we went over the what was it? You told me to go over some Amnesty International, and one of the things that they claimed.
And you disagreed with one word.
No, not one word.
One
No,
word.
not one word.
Yes, you did. You
No, I
did.
did not.
It was race. You're like, well, technically, it's not a race of people. Technically, the Palestinian people, they're not.
No, it was
They're not a
not.
race.
I
So
explained
the whole
numerous times that
Amnesty
was not my
International
issue.
was wrong.
No, I
It
kept
was a Human
explaining
Rights
that was
Watch,
not my
it
issue.
wasn't.
Yeah, Human Rights Watch. I
Okay.
explained over and over that was not my issue, and that you kept going off in the chat acting like this was a semantic difference that it wasn't. It wasn't a
No, I
semantical
came on stream
issue.
and we talked about it. It wasn't in chat. I came on stream. We had a whole conversation about it.
No. Not that you didn't. No. Well, I spent like 2 hours like going over this stuff, but the okay, maybe the problem that I had was that they were giving a list of things, and I think it was 3 things, and they said according to these 3 things, this is when we know that it becomes
This is the pedantic bullshit that people.
Hold on,
gotta
it's
deal
not
with, yo.
pedantic. This is what I'm saying. Hold on,
Yes,
stop.
it is.
Stop.
No,
No, it is not. No, it is
No,
not.
we're
This
trying
is
to
what I'm
gauge-
talking about.
we're
You guys
trying
are
to
saying,
gauge
hey, this
an
thing is
international
happening.
crisis.
Okay, what's the definition of that? Here's
What
the
do you mean,
definition.
you
Okay, well, it
guys?
doesn't meet that
You
definition.
guys
Oh, you're so
is-
pedantic. Like, this is what we're
Bro.
talking about.
Is Human Rights Watch you guys?
No, I'm
Is
talking to you
Amnesty
right now.
International
You
you
right now are
guys?
calling
Is
me
Doctors Without
you.
Borders you guys?
They didn't call me
Is the
pedantic. You
ICJ?
did. You are calling me pedantic.
Right.
Not them. So I'm talking to you. There's
I called
you guys.
pedantic for disagreeing. I'm calling you pedantic for disagreeing with their findings.
Okay, you understand that there's a bunch of
you're
other
talking about-
organizations that disagree with those findings, right? You do know that there's tons of organizations that disagree with those findings.
Who?
Like
Tom?
the
Who?
ADL?
Oh
the
my God.
ADL? What? Oh,
Yo,
no?
you can't be serious right now.
What?
You can't be
Oh,
serious.
wait.
The ADL is your counter to
It is
the
one.
United Nation.
Yes,
and
it is
human
one, but it doesn't.
Human Rights
Okay,
Watch
listen.
and
Listen,
the
this is
international
let me get through
court.
this. Let me get through this, okay? When they
You're
said
talking
this,
about
it is
a
not
fucking-
pedantic. Just stop talking. When they said that this is the definition and this is what we need, and then they said, and this is what's happening, okay? And then we went and checked the 2 of those things that I said, I don't believe that that's actually happening. And we went and checked and went to what they sourced as their evidence, and that is not what it said in the evidence. It is
That's
not the same
true.
thing.
You just
It
made
was,
that up. You just made that up. What 2 things? What 2 things? You just made that up.
so one of them
You
was
literally
there.
just made that up.
One of the things. Okay, hold on. The word was that they were using was I'm blanking on the word all of a sudden. It's the South Africa thing. The
Apartheid.
apartheid, yes. So they were saying this is how we define apartheid, and this is like what we're using. And one of the things was that there was discrimination based on race, right? And it's under law, right? And so we went and checked, and they were saying that like yes, the Arab group is being discriminated against based on race. But then we find out, okay, most Arabs are not being discriminated against at all. But there's this small group of people who are living on land that is illegal to live on because they're not capable of getting water and electricity and internet there, which means that these people are living somewhere where it is just
Because
like
of Israel.
where they literally say, we cannot get it there because it's in the middle of the desert and it's impossible for us to give you guys like normal human rights out there. So we made it against the law to live there. Now, you guys say you want to live out there, so we're not going to stop you. You stay out there all you want, but we literally are telling you it's illegal to live there, and if you want to live in like society with water and everything, you got to get out of the middle of the desert, okay? So then they say, well, what is the law that they're discriminating against them on? They're making it to where they have to travel 30 miles to vote, or 30 kilometers or something like that to vote. Well, yeah, they're in the middle of the desert. They're not going to go put a polling station in the middle of the desert. But they do have one as
Why?
close as possible in society. As soon as you get to society, normal society, there's voting
No,
stations.
they said
But
it
that,
was
but that,
impossible to get to.
but that is the one group that is Arab that is being discriminated against, whereas the majority of Arabs that live in Israel don't have to travel that far to get to a polling station. That is what I'm saying, where I'm saying it doesn't seem as though it's based on race here. It seems it's based on they're living in the desert in an illegal place. Just the same here is if I go and live in the middle of a state park out in the woods off the grid, and then I complain that there's not a polling station out there. Well, my state literally says I'm not allowed to live there. Like it's state property. It's like out there in the middle of the woods. It's like I'm not supposed to be there, but I choose to live there. And now I'm complaining that there's not a polling station there. Like, yeah, I think that would be a little odd.
Yeah, if it was just that one group, that was the example. It's one of the examples they used. And you didn't finish reading that article, but that was not the only example they had of racial discrimination
It wasn't
against
the only
Arabs. And
example.
there's
That was the example for the Bedouins. The other racial example was that they weren't allowed to teach about the Nakda,
the Nakba.
the
Nakba,
Nakba
yes.
is that they weren't allowed to teach about the Nakba in schools, but then we go and read it and it doesn't say they're not allowed to teach about the Nakba. They're not allowed to teach about it in a way to where it legitimizes the state of Israel's existence. That's very different than whether or not they're allowed to celebrate it or talk about it or teach it versus say it in a way to where they say, yes, this is
Why would Palestinians or why would Arabs celebrate the Nakba?
well, they're saying like a
Why would they teach
memorialize
it in
it.
a way that's favorable to Israel? There is no way to teach that's favorable to Israel at all. So banning the teaching of that,
I
like
don't agree with that
in
at
any
all.
way they want. It's like saying like, oh, you can't talk about slavery unless the United. If you speak in any detrimental way about
Yes, but it's
colonialists
not.
or the
Yeah,
13 colonies, and that's
correct,
illegal.
correct. But
And then
that
black people are
is
the
that.
only one that want to teach that.
Yes, but that is a
And
what.
that,
First off, what I disagree that you can't teach the Nakba in a factual way, but that doesn't illegitimize the state of Israel. But two, all they said is you can do it. We're just not going to give you
I
funding
didn't
for your
say
schools
delegitimize
anymore.
the state.
But that
Right.
it's
The wording they used was delegitimize the state of Israel, but
yes,
what really
and I
happened
think
in
that makes
America was
sense.
the
That even
slaughter of
if
Palestinians
I think that if back in
to
the
create
day,
the state of Israel.
yes,
The
and I
fuck?
think if
How you
back in
want
the
to teach
day,
that in a way that
Native Americans are saying, yes, actually, all of you guys are here illegally. You're not allowed to be here. All of you white people actually are here trespassing on our land. And you guys all should be deported immediately because this is our land and you violated all of our treaties. And all of you guys,
yeah, they're
really
right.
should be
They're
deported and
right.
kicked off our land right
Yeah,
now.
and they're
I
right.
think it would
But
totally
they
make
can't do
sense if
that.
the United
So
States was like, yeah, we're not going to give you guys funding to like
of
tell
course you
everybody
would.
that they're not allowed to be
Of course
here
you
and
would.
that we're not a legitimate
Of course you
government
would.
and like we're not going to fund you to delegitimize our country. That would be
So
weird.
listen to yourself. You're like, if Native Americans like uh w- w- so you're saying that if Native Americans decided that they didn't want to uh, recognize the United States, or they wanted to say, the United States is illegitimate because they, broke 10,000 treaties and they, stole our land and slaughtered our people. So we don't want to recognize them. What are you saying? You'd be totally fine with the United States doing what?
Saying that they would cut off federal funding. That they wouldn't
Cut off federal
say
funding.
I'm going to
So
fund
you're
you.
cool with
The federal
discrimination.
state is going to fund you to tell everybody that we shouldn't exist.
The
Yeah, we're going to
truth.
give you money to do that.
The
Here you go.
So you
We'll
can't
pay you
tell
to do it.
people the truth. That's exactly what you're. Yes,
That's
that
not
is
the
the
truth.
point of
That is not
Israel.
the truth. That is not the truth. That
That
like
Americans stole their lands, broke treaties, slaughtered their people. That's not the truth.
that is very different than what I said. I said that they should say all of you should be deported now. all of you are here illegally. You're not allowed to be here. This is our land. This is like, yes, I think in that case, yes, that is not a truth statement. That's like a very subjective thing to where
Wait,
you are
people say
delegitimizing the
other
state
people
of
should be
the United
deported.
States.
Wait, people say other people should be deported all the time,
hmm
and they don't face
Based on what?
federal repercussions for that.
Yeah.
Based on whatever, like if they feel like they shouldn't be in this country or they should be in this
Do
country.
you think it's whether or
Like
not
people think
they're
discrimination
saying
all the
people should
time.
be deported is the issue, or is it the delegitimizing of the state's like legal ability or rightful ability to deport people? Do you think it's just
How are
saying the
Native
word deport,
Americans
or
saying
is
that people wait, how did what no, you described that to me. How is saying the word deport delegitimizing the state? You tell me how that works.
okay? If I say you guys should all be
Wait, do you believe in
deported,
free speech or not? I'm sorry, do
uh,
you believe in free speech or not?
yeah, I don't think I have to pay you for your speech,
So
but
what
I
you're
believe in it. Yeah.
what no, 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 no.
Well, that's what
What
we're
you're
talking
speaking
about.
of is the exact yes.
We're talking about whether or
Oh
not I
my
have to
God.
pay you for speech. No, I don't have to pay you for speech.
Hey, you're talking about cutting off federal funding for whatever. Like you're
Correct.
not paying somebody for speech. What why are
Yes,
you
you are.
saying
That's
that?
federal
That's not what
funding.
we're talking about.
It's federal funding, just the same as like the
Okay, so
currently
so if
they say
so if
if
a Native
you do,
Amer
hold on, wait, it's just that currently the United States says very clear, if you are going to tell everybody that that like you're going to make your school a fully religious school and that everything is based on like the world was just created thousands of years ago with Adam and Eve and the earth is flat and there were never dinosaurs and like everything is about then yes, like I think it is totally rightfully the case currently that the United States would say, yeah, we're going to cut off federal funding. There are some things where we
so
say, you
Donald
know what,
Trump
if you
should
teach certain
so
things,
Donald
we're
Trump
just
should
not.
cut so Donald Trump should cut off funding to those schools in I don't know Nebraska right now that are talking about bringing back religious schools and all that.
Yes, currently we do this. There are private schools who label themselves as those type of schools that have a limited amount of federal funding. But public schools do not get federal funding the same, public schools are not allowed to do that because they are
We're
public
not
schools
talking
who
about
get federal funding and community funding for a specific type of teaching that has
not
limitations
what I
on it.
asked you. Not what I asked you. Should Donald Trump cut off funding to the schools in Nebraska who are
I
talking
said
about switching their
yes.
policies to the
I,
creation of
s-
policies?
I
Yes.
said
Okay.
yes.
So you do believe in discrimination, right?
Yes, just the same as if they told like trans people that they're an abomination because God said so.
That's
Yes,
not
I
the
think
same.
that those schools should
That's not the
lose
same.
federal funding for sure. And
That's not the same.
if they turned
That's not
around
the
and
same.
said freedom of speech, I would say, well, fuck your freedom of speech. You don't get to be paid for your speech. You can say it all you want. Say it all you want. Say trans people are an abomination all day, every day. But the federal government is not going to fund you to do it.
Okay. So you went from uh, Arabs teaching the Nakba was that didn't. What was the terminology?
I'm just making the
Terminology.
point
Oh,
that
it
freedom of
didn't
speech is not the issue there. That's all.
legitimize.
I'm just making the point that
It,
freedom of speech
but
is not the issue because we agree there are lots of limitations to whether or not we should pay people for their speech, right?
we're talking about fair treatment under the law,
Sure, but
not paying people
you
for
and
this.
I agree that there are some things where the government should not fund
I
certain
don't
types of
think we
speech,
do
right?
agree. No, I don't think we do. I
Okay,
don't
so
think we
you think
do.
that
I
like
don't
if
think,
the government said we're
I
not
don't
going
agree
to
with you
fund
on
you to
anything
say
at
that trans
all.
people, okay, well this is what I'm trying to get at, but so if if a school said we are not going to fund you to say that trans people are an abomination and any trans kid within your school has to like get right with God because they're trans and they need to fix themselves, or if they're gay they need to fix themselves because they're an abomination, you don't think it's okay for the federal government to say this is discrimination under the law and that we say that like government agencies are not allowed to discriminate in this way and so we're going to cut off your federal funding? You don't think that's okay?
I do think that's okay. It's
Okay,
not
okay.
like
So that's what I'm
disagree
saying.
with
Hold on. I'm just saying we do agree that freedom of speech does not like apply across the board because just because there's funding involved that they have to pay for all types of speech. You and I agree there are some limits. So now from there, like we agree that there are some limits. It's not about freedom of speech. So now is it okay? Is a limit you delegitimizing the people who are funding you and their right to exist?
I think you're confused. I didn't bring up freedom of speech when you're talking about trans people. So,
No, you
like
didn't. You
that,
brought it up with the other thing,
no,
but I'm saying that your
with
argument of
Native
freedom of
Americans,
speech
yeah.
applies to the trans people. And so if you're saying, Paul, if you
No, it
don't, if
doesn't.
you think, hold on. If you think that
Because one is hate
saying,
speech, and one is fucking just education. Why are you saying they're the same thing? Why are you comparing hate speech to education, like just normal education, or an opinion on something like uh, if the Native American stance is that the American government is illegitimate and that all Americans should be deported, you're saying that that is akin to hate speech, or that's like similar to it.
okay, when I'm saying I believe in limitations to funding, right? I'm just saying
Right.
I
Which
believe
would
in
be for like
limitations to
things like hate
funding
speech and
based on
shit like
speech.
that.
Okay. Now you'll call it hate
Yeah.
speech. Like they won't call it hate speech. They'll say they're
Trans
teaching
people
facts.
are an abomination. No,
Yes,
under
they're
the law. We're
teaching.
talking about the law.
Yes,
We're talking
well,
about the law.
but we don't have hate speech under the law. But the point is that the the government will say you have the right to say those things about trans people. You do have the right to say it, and you can say it all you want. But we are not going to pay you to say it, and so there is a limit to what it is that we will allow to that we will allow
When you say we
our
don't have hate speech under the law, what do you mean?
what?
When you say we don't have hate speech under the law, what do you mean by that?
That like the Supreme Court decided that we can't have like hate speech laws and that we don't have like a line for hate speech within the United States, that hate speech is considered speech that is illegal because it's hateful, and that we in the United States have like a very clear decision from the Supreme Court that hate speech cannot exist in the United States because we have freedom of speech. But that doesn't mean we have to pay for your speech. And so while you have the right to say trans people are an abomination, you have the right to say trans people shouldn't exist, you do not have the right to be funded to say it. And so I'm saying all I'm trying to do is just say that there is a line to the speech. So when you bring up freedom of speech, oh, you don't believe in freedom of speech. Well, I believe that there are limits to what it is the government should pay for, and that has nothing to do with freedom of speech. So I can give you an example of trans people, and it's clear we both agree. There's a limit to what it is they can or can't say that the government has to fund them for. So now that we agree there's limits there, now I want to talk about like where we go from there is, okay, well,
Wow.
yes.
You know that when you talk, you repeat yourself a lot, and you
Yes.
end up just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking.
Yes.
And just but saying the same thing over and over. And
Yes.
I
I'm
heard your
trying
first
to
6
I'm
times
trying to
you
get
said
you
it.
to pinpoint what your
Retarded.
disagreement is
Not
with what I'm
stupid.
saying.
The disagreement is that you're saying that in Israel, the teaching of the Nakba, and the way that the Arabs teach it, that Israelis disagree with, is for in Israel, it's against the law. And you're saying that that is similar to in the United States. If
No.
the United States,
No.
you're saying if the United States didn't want to, fund Native Americans for the way that they teach, or for if they said that they wanted all Americans expelled from the United States, I think that America shouldn't fund that. And you're comparing that to what's going on in Israel, and what they're calling racial discrimination
No.
you made the comparison. Oh, I'm sorry. Where would I get what part of that did I get wrong?
So this is why I've repeated myself, because I'm just trying to explain what that point was just against you bringing up
Okay.
freedom of speech. Does
For the First Amendment, there is no clause in there that says that you cannot have hate speech. Okay, for a federal funding program, The government can decide to fund whatever school, whatever speech, whatever they want. They can decide to fund you for whatever reason they want. I understand fully what
Okay.
you're saying, Tom. You don't have to
Okay.
repeat yourself 50 times.
Well,
I'm
you
trying
asked
to
me why
hammer
you
down
asked me
on
why I
what
brought
we're
it up, and then you
disagreeing.
also said
But
that
we're
and then you just now
Tom,
said that I was
we're trying to
comparing
hammer
it to
down a
Israel,
disagreement.
and I didn't compare it to that. I
We're
was just arguing against your
we're
freedom of
trying
speech take. So now we're
no,
at
my take was that by saying that specifically Arabs cannot teach the Nakba in the way that they want to teach it is racial discrimination. And you said, no, that's like in the United States if this happened. Yes, you were comparing it to the United States. I'm following the conversation. I know exactly
So the
where we
first thing
are.
that I brought
I'm
up was
trying to
Native Americans.
separate our
I brought up
disagreement.
I brought up
I'm
Native
trying
Americans. Then I said yes, if Native Americans were making this point that they that the state of the United States was illegitimate and that they don't have rights over the land, that it would make sense if the government said, well, we're not going to pay you to tell your students that we have no rights to govern this land. And then you said, oh, so you don't think that we have freedom of speech? You don't believe
but
in
that's
freedom of
not
speech? So then I brought up a point to
I
show,
got
well,
you.
you don't
Okay, that was
you
a
don't
flawed argument. I got
okay.
you. But let's
Okay.
get back to our
Okay, good.
original
Okay.
argument.
So yeah,
Okay.
so now I'm saying, so now we're at the point where I'm saying,
This is why
so
people call you
now
the
for the
big
Native
brother.
Americans, hold on, I'm just trying to go like in order for argument
so
argument. I've asked you 3
so
times, Philly. Please just let me get through this. I've asked you this argument 3 times, and every time I've asked you, you've gone back to the trans thing. So we're past that now. Please.
Tom, I don't care about America. I don't care what's going on in America. My question for you is why should Israel cut off uh, electricity or not provide electricity, internet, access to polling stations because of where they live? And you said the justification is they live in the middle of nowhere. They live in a desert. Israel says
Mhm.
it's illegal to live there,
Mhm.
but it's not illegal to live there because there are Israelis that live nearby that get services that the Arabs don't get. But Israel's justification is that, oh, they're doing illegal teachings in school. I don't know why you're leaving that part out. I don't know if you didn't read the Amnesty International part very like
We
closely,
gotta
but
pick one or
the,
the other.
they,
Which one do we want to talk about? Because
I mean,
I
the human rights, not Amnesty International. That was the point they brought up for racial discrimination
no.
was
I meant
the
the
Arab.
polling thing, like if they have to travel a long way to get to polling, or if we're going to talk about the
All
Nakba
of it.
being taught in school. Yes, all of it. But which one first?
Okay. Let's talk about, I guess, the Nakba being taught in school. I
Because
guess.
yeah, we're on the Nakba being taught right now, and that's what I was trying to get to. The next thing is that if I'm saying I think the United States has the right to pull funding from a school based on the Native Americans saying that they don't have the right to govern that land, I think it makes sense that they would say, well, you're literally saying that we don't have a right to exist, so we're not going to fund you to say that. You have the right to say it, but we're not going to fund you to say it. I think it makes sense,
Here's the
just
thing.
like it would
I
in this
agree with
other
that.
scenario.
No, but that's not what they're doing. Is pulling funding. Like you're equivocating. You're making the comparison of pulling funding from not providing essential services.
No. You said, wait, you said that you wanted to talk about the Nakba part. The Nakba part is about the fact that they're saying we're not talking about the polling right now. We're talking about them saying we're not going to give you federal funding if you teach about the Nakba in a way that delegitimizes the state of Israel's existence. And so that is them saying we're
Okay,
just not going to give you federal
that is
funding.
what I was.
You're not going to get arrested for it.
That's what I was confusing.
Okay.
That's what I was confusing. Okay, wasn't part of that there was nearby Israeli, I don't know, communities that or Jewish communities, excuse me, in Israel that for some reason weren't illegal. For some reason, does so. All right. What you're saying is the school thing and the town. They're two separate issues.
Yes, these were the 2 examples of discrimination under the law. And so I'm saying we could
Okay,
talk
all right.
about
Forget about the
each one of
federal
the
funding the school
examples.
thing.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Why aren't they providing services to these people that live in that area? Is it because Israel decided you said Israel decided this is an illegal place to live, and people they don't want people to live there because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to
Mhm.
get them things, and there's no point in living there, and it's illegal to live there.
Mhm.
But there are Jewish communities close by that are provided services.
But that are
Why?
not in the middle of the desert.
But they're close enough to like that. Okay.
Sure. So I look, I could
When
be
you say the
totally
middle
wrong.
of the
I'm
desert,
just
I don't know
explaining my
exactly what that
thought
means.
process on this, okay? So this is just the way that I like when I read this is the way that I think of it. Is I think, okay, if I went to like, Kentucky and went and lived out in the middle of the woods and started building a house and shit and just stayed out there fishing and living by myself off the grid, and me and like a bunch more people, we all just live out there off the grid. And then later I'm like, hey, it's time to vote. You guys don't have a polling station out here. And they say, well, yeah, that's not a suburban area. We have sections for places where people can live and sections where they can't. There's some places that are made just for natural stuff to go on and like nature to exist by itself. And that's one of those places. You're not supposed to live out there. So we're not going to go build a polling station out there for you where you're living illegally. You're supposed to live over here where it's designated for people to live. So if you want to vote, you got to travel to the city to go vote. That makes sense to me. That seems normal.
Okay. That. All right. So the apartheid claim to you, and that's what that article is about. It was apartheid, not genocide.
Mm-hmm.
So the apartheid claim to you is faulty because of the lawsuit that the school brought against Israel, right? That was a lawsuit, right?
No, it was just a law that they put in place, just saying that they wouldn't give funding was one thing, and then those are the two examples of legal discrimination or discrimination under the law. And so, yeah, the two were those two things.
I'm remembering a lawsuit in there. I remember it was a lot. We went over a lawsuit in there somewhere, but okay, whatever.
I could be wrong. I'm not
I
sure.
could be
I don't think I read about a lawsuit, but I could be wrong. I don't remember.
okay. So that whole argument we got in just now about the United States, that's because I misheard what you were saying about the schools and stuff. So I will concede that. However, the arguments I'm making is not from a place of, oh, what Israel's doing is bad and Zionism is bad, but and it's not just the Human Rights Watch, right? That's
Mhm.
saying what Israel's doing. So they're falling just short of calling it a genocide. Like the UN says, Israel's methods in Gaza is quote consistent with genocide. CNN says the same thing. Their methods are consistent with genocide. But then they
Yes.
go on to explain how they are deliberately blocking food and water from coming into um Gaza, and then more and more into places in the West Bank, but
Hmm.
particularly what they're doing in Gaza. And then you say, well, uh, that is that's contested, or I'd have to go through every single claim, right? But at the same in the same breath, you're saying Hasan is wrong for um, describing Zionism in the way that it's being described internationally, and we're gonna go all the way back to the beginning, like so. What you're saying is a feeling about Hasan. It's not like it's not something that you can quote from your head. It's just stuff that you remember. It's just like, a feeling that you got from watching his content.
No.
Because
So like
Ethan's made a
with the claim
content
about
move, I
like
think I would have
the
clear
UN.
example of anti-Semitism.
The UN,
Mhm.
they say that they have done small parts of an investigation. They would need to go farther, and I think that they said that like they need to go through the ICC and the ICJ, and that so far they believe that yes, like there is evidence of a genocide, but until the war is over, they really don't have like the ability or the means to investigate this thoroughly, and so right now um, they are like that's where their claim lies is that like yes, it just kind of looks like a
And they don't have
genocide
the means to investigate it thoroughly because Israel is not
because
cooperating
they're in
with
the middle of a
anything.
war, so they're not really
But yet,
capable
but
of
yet, the
holding
Gaza
them to
Health
account
Ministry,
in the middle of a
sure,
war.
sure, that is what Israel says. I mean, you do got to talk them down. I do give you that. Yeah, they're in the middle of a war. Got it. The United
So
States somehow. was able to communicate with the ICJ during all of their wars. They somehow were able to
But the war wasn't
give
here.
real-time numbers.
The war wasn't here though,
Sure.
right? So
The war is not in
let me give you like
Israel.
a
The war
full
is not
take
in
on this.
Israel.
Well,
Sure.
well, it is part of it is in Israel, and there are people dying in Israel, and
Wait, is guys wait. What do you mean? Part of it is in Israel. The attack happened in Israel, but the war is not being fought in
there
Israel.
are rockets, missiles, bombs, like all sorts of shit going into Israel on a daily basis. And anyways, the point is, so I just need to get like a full takeout. There are a ton of things so that like Israel has done during the war
Genocide
that
or not,
look like
Hasan
it
shouldn't
could
promote
be
terrorism.
like
Not that hard
totally
to
unjustified.
understand.
But I also know that during wars, we don't normally expect them to justify each and everything as it happens because they are in the middle of a war and they can't give like intel and like secrets and all this shit out at the time. And so we just do generally part of the process is we just do have to wait until it's over. It is going to be about whether or not a lot of these attacks are unjustified. So if they go and bomb a school, but it turns out, well, they called ahead, told them to get out of the school, and then they also knew that there were weapons, and they had very legitimate intel that showed that that Hamas was working out of that school, and they tried to save as many lives as possible when they bombed the school.
Fog of war.
Yes, that I would say that this is something that I would consider justified. But I would expect them to investigate that. I want the UN, the ICJ, I want them to investigate these things. And if it turns out that it's not justified, then yes, they need to be held accountable for it. But if it is justified, like, I will not think that it's a genocide, and it's going to be about like how many of these are justified, how many are not, what like is there intent behind this, blah blah blah. I don't have that information, and I think that people like Hasan act like they 100% have the information. They know it's a genocide.
No,
they have all the
no,
facts.
I think killing 25,000 women and children is enough to, draw a line, a moral line. Like,
I think in lots of circumstances I would agree with you, but I think in what Gaza is a city where everything is compacted into small
But we
areas.
know why Gaza is like that.
Sure, but that's a different story. That's a different story. Is that even it is hold on. It is because then we can get upset about them compacting them there. But once they're compacted and then Hamas starts attacking them in a certain way, now the only way that they can protect themselves is in the way that they have. And so now we're saying they're like, okay, well, yes, these are separate
protect themselves
things.
the way they've been protecting themselves. Why did 10/7 happen? Because they had lacked security on that side of the Gaza wall. Netanyahu had put all their people in the West Bank for their fucking takeover of the West Bank for the shit they were doing for the 3 months leading up to 10/7. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole look.
Yes, but you're saying that they have to just play defense all day.
Israel does.
That's what you're saying. You're saying just play defense, allow this group that's continuously killing people, kidnapping people, that just allow them to keep attacking here and there.
Continuously killing people and kidnapping people. It was not continuously
yes, they were.
killing and kidnapping.
Yes, they were, and they were literally finding ways around the what do you call it? The dome, where they started putting like bombs on balloons that would go up for a little bit and then pop and then fall into the middle of a store and blow up.
Am I saying they should have let Hamas attack them? No. Am I saying they should just let Hamas exist? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I know that you don't have to kill 25,000 women and children at least. These are fucking, I'm giving you the very least of the numbers just so nobody says I'm exaggerating shit. But at the very least, 25,000 women and children, probably 3 times that number, right? There, Hasan is smart enough to know that there is no justification Israel can give, because we know, like, Hamas wasn't secretly bombing Israel, or Hamas some program where there was some imminent threat to Israelis at all times. Yes, bombings, shellings, terrorist attacks, all that stuff happened from Gaza. Take
Mhm.
out Hamas. Got you. You don't have to flatten the whole place. You don't have to
But
do everything Israel
real
was
quick,
doing.
you
And
know how many
that's
people
all
live in?
Hasan calls out, bro.
Do you know how many people live in Gaza?
Shit, now?
Well, even
Probably
before.
20% less than used to. Oh, 900,000? I really don't know.
Over 2 million. Over 2 million
Over
people.
2 million? Okay.
Yes. In Gaza alone,
So
over
more
2
than
million.
I thought. Yeah, more than I thought, yes.
Yes. And it's about 40,000 have died since October 7th. So the idea that like it is all flattened, it is really bad. It looks really bad. They have like there's so much destruction there and rubble, and like it's going to be almost impossible to clean up after this. I totally agree with this. But they haven't just killed everybody. They haven't just bombed everybody. They haven't just wiped out the whole fucking thing. And
But here's the thing. Some numbers are a lot higher than 40,000. That's like that is the most conservative number people can come up with is
I think the
40,000. But
UN literally
most
said
people,
no more than 48,000, no less than 40. I think is the what I saw from the UN. But
wait, when was this?
I don't remember, a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago. Gaza since October 7th. UN, nothing more than 45,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. Assistant Secretary General tells Security Council ceasefire is long overdue. Prolonged occupation will only breed more hatred, antagonism, sowing seeds of instability in the Middle East, says delegates. This was done in December. So this is very recent numbers.
Nothing more than noting more than.
I thought they said 48,000, but it's 45,000. So yeah. So the
Assistant Secretary General tells Security Council. Okay. So by the most conservative numbers, like I said, there are some places that counted higher, but we're gonna go with the quote unquote official numbers, right? I'm not gonna do the thing where, oh, the United Nations, we can believe them here, but let's not believe them there.
that's just the highest number that I've seen is the 45. I everything else that I saw said 40, but that's the 45 is the highest one that I've seen. So it's not, I'm not like downplaying it or like taking it. I'm just saying this is what I've seen.
Gotcha. Just give me 1 second, because Oxfam I think had it a lot higher than that. But anyway, all right, let's just say
Yeah, Watson
45,000.
Institute says 62,413 people in Gaza have died of starvation.
Right. Oh, just of starvation?
That's what that says, but I believe this is old, because I could have sworn this got redacted later, but I don't know. But yeah, it still says
the United Nations in August of 2024 they're saying 40,000. So listen, the number could be up to 48,000. Listen, I don't know, you don't know. We'll just go with 48,000 right now, because just for the sake of argument, okay?
Okay.
There is no justification for that, because we know that 50% of them are women and children. So Hasan calling Zionism ugly, nasty project who are run by ugly, nasty, um, you know, ideological pigs. Did he with Pig Dog? Was that the one we were arguing over?
Yeah, sure.
Wherever the fuck he calls them, right? It's not because they're Jewish. It's not because he sees a Jewish person. It's like, oh, Jewish conspiracy. Oh, ADL trying to it's the great replacement theory conspiracy. He's not doing any of that. He's calling out what he sees as war crimes being committed by Israel, backed by the United States, and for that he's being called anti-Semitic, and I feel like and this is where it all started. Ethan, that is what Ethan's doing. Plus his whole campaign to get Twitch fucking nuked off the face of this earth. So he's picked fights with all these people, and now he's saying, "Oh, they called CPS on me and my family." Well, bro, listen, like I'm not trying trying to like tell him what to do or anything, but you don't, as a man with 3 children who's easily identified, your face is on camera every day. You don't go picking fights with half the internet, and like you just, I don't know, bro. Is that such a hard concept to understand? Because you kind of agree with me in the beginning, like you don't do that. And here's the other thing: he's going to be a lolcow if he continues this behavior. Like this is lolcow behavior. Like defend yourself all you want, but I'm just saying, like this, that's shit. That's really what I wanted to talk to you about was Ethan, not Hasan and Gaza and genocide and all that shit. Like, because that's not
Well,
even my
sure, but
strong suit.
whether or not Ethan is doing something wrong is based on whether or not he's right or wrong about Hasan. And then even like your first like comment is like, there's no way to justify this. I started off my like take by saying this is how it would be justified. This is how it wouldn't be justified. I do think that there's ways that this would be justified, but it is about the fact that I think that like Hasan takes this very narrow view on these things to where he is pushing a message that is not accurate, and it seems to always be twisted in a way that is only
Yeah,
reminiscent
yeah,
of people like
but that's not anti-Semitic. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say he's not
okay.
propagandist. I'm not trying to say he doesn't fucking push narratives. I'm not trying to say he doesn't lie about things or misrepresent facts or he's the ultimate truth teller. I'm just saying anti-Semitic is crazy, and also yeah, that's like Ethan's main charge here, and that's
I think
why
that when
I
I'm
think
talking about
when I
Tulsi Gabbard pushing misinformation about Ukrainians, if instead of
uh-huh.
Ukrainians, it was Jewish people who were all living in Ukraine, and she's saying, well, no, I'm not talking about their Jewishness. I'm just talking about them living in Ukraine. That's all I'm saying. But then it's always pushing this misinformation and this like message that isn't really accurate
Well, yeah,
about what
she's a
Russia's doing
warmonger.
and justifying things that Russia's doing. I would say,
Everybody
well,
wants to
yeah,
war with
that's
Russia. Who
anti-Semitic.
fucking knows?
Yes, but I don't think she is a warmonger. I think that but I think that she has this hardcore bias against Ukrainians that is only like similar to something like racism, and that if it was Jews, it would be like we would all call it anti-Semitism. It was just, yes, you're spreading misinformation. You're always justifying the killing of them. You're always lying to make the other side look better or to make the other side look justified. Whereas, like, I think, yes, my take on Israel Palestine is like nuanced, and it has like the obviously what Israel's doing wrong, obviously what Hamas is doing wrong, obviously there's some justified things here, there's some unjustified things on both sides. Like this is I think that this is like a very accurate way of talking about it, that I think most people talk about it in that way. And I think that Hassan's is very, very like lacking the truth of the matter, and that there's just seems to be a bias. And then when we look at that, and then the insults, and then the Houthis, and then the like, it just, yeah, it seems like there's just a pattern of behavior that exists there that I wouldn't say he's definitely anti-Semitic, but I would say he is somebody that makes me wonder, because it could be justified by just his hatred of America in some ways as well. I'm not sure.
I'm not even convinced that he hates America. I think he has a lot of criticisms, justified criticisms of America, but this whole he hates America shit is just it's all bullshit. You guys sound like a bunch of fucking bitch babies. He's defending Palestine, who is um just being bombarded by this powerful nation backed by the United States, and you guys are like, "Oh, that's just the same as Tulsi Gabbard doing her fucking war hawking for Russia and her whatever the fuck she's up to. That's like the same exact thing. Him like maybe embellishing a story about this fucking wretched state of Israel that is like literally slaughtering women and children. And you're like, oh, I could find a justification for it if I really, really thought about that. This is any other nation doing that, we'd be calling it out. And there is other nations doing it. I don't know why we're not calling it out, but I'd be saying the same thing if we were talking about Myanmar or fucking Ukraine or any other fucking war that's going on right now. Like, yeah, you can think of justifications, but there haven't been none. No good ones. No, nothing that Israel's given. So I don't know. You seem to s- you you give the benefit of the doubt where you want to, and then you see things a certain way through a certain lens. the very narrow lens that you want to see it. Hasan
It's
hates
again, it's
America.
about a benefit
Hasan,
of the doubt based on a pattern of behavior. Like it's the same as the way we're talking about Myron. Is that like there was a period of time where I thought that maybe he was just memeing, and that it was all just edgy memes and shit like that. Over time, that went away based on a pattern of behavior. I think that it's the same for Hasan, where like yes, over time, a pattern of behavior has just shown me that yeah, it just seems to always trend in the same direction, and that there is never the like equal opposite reaction.
so his nonstop coverage of American politics and who he thinks is good in politics, who he thinks will be better for America, that is his, constant hating of America rhetoric that you're
Wait,
talking
when I
about?
say he hates America,
If
I'm talking about like liberalism, our like geopolitical meddling, our position within the world, what we represent to the rest of the world, the way that we engage in like trade throughout the world, influence and the UN and NATO
so
and like yeah, I think that those are all the things that I'm saying he hates. Not that he hates like
he
every
hates our foreign
American.
policy?
Yeah,
Okay, he hates our foreign policy. So the
well,
fuck what?
well,
Like
I think our foreign
like
policy is indicative of
what is that
our
talking about? That
liberalism
does not mean
and
he hates
what.
America.
No, hold on. I'm saying that when he says he hates America, he's saying he hates what we represent in the world. And when he's saying that, he's saying he hates the liberalism that we are like exporting to the rest of the world. The like the influence that we have, the like what he thinks of as like imperialism and shit like
Everything
that. I'm saying that he hates America in that way, and then that therefore he has a bias against America, and because America is allies with Israel, his hatred just kind of passes on to Israel. And he's literally said this word for word, that in the past he said, if you want to know what side to be on, just go and follow the money of who America is funding. And whoever they're funding, go to the
But he's
opposite side.
fucking right. No,
Okay,
I don't know
I
about go to the
disagree with that.
opposite side, but if you want to know what's going on, like if you really want to know, like it's not just the fucking State Department's version of it. Like if you're a very curious person as to what's really going on, and I'm not saying Hasan does know what's really going on, but you would follow who America is paying arms money to, who America is
Sure,
giving
but even
weapons
like
to,
pro
who America
American
like
patriots are going to say
like,
that they disagree with what happened in Iraq, right? But they're not going to say, like, oh, we'll just find out who America is funding and then who to root against, or yeah, who to root
yeah,
against
no,
and who
yeah,
to
that
root for. Like, this is literally what he says. And so when I say he hates America, I don't mean he hates the citizens. I don't mean he hates like American people or anything like that. I think he hates what America stands for, American values,
no,
the
yeah, what he means
Constitution,
by
like.
that is what he means by that is if you're talking about like the Iraq war, like should you be rooting for? Okay, I don't know who should you be rooting for, but you definitely know that America isn't the good guys here. Like that is that is like plain as day, and that's what
Yeah,
he's
but that's
trying
what I'm
to
saying is
say, and
that
it's
no,
true.
because I'm
You're
saying
sitting
that
there
most
like, oh,
people
but
would still
that's a
say
dumb
that they
take.
disagree with Iraq, but they wouldn't say, well, now that Iraq happened, now anybody that America's funding, like to root against them because they're obviously the bad guys
Bro,
because of Iraq. Like,
but America is the superpower, though. We are
yeah.
the ones with like that is
And
why.
I like what we
Yes, we're the
represent.
ones with
I
the
like who
power.
we are in the world. I like what it is that we do. I like our exporting of American values. I like the soft power that we use. I like the military bases that
Sure.
we build. I like all of these things. And to me, those things represent liberalism. To him, they represent liberalism. That's why he doesn't like it. That's why I do like it. That is the
To him, they
difference.
represent imperialism. To
Well,
him, it
sure, liberal
represents America.
imperialism is what he would call it. He would call it liberal imperialism because we're not literally taking over their countries and forcing them, to be another state, of the United States,
Like
but we're
that's not
instead,
liberalism.
well,
Liberalism. He agrees with most liberal values. He
no,
agrees
I'm
with
saying, hold
voting.
on.
He
I'm saying
agrees
that
with
he calls this liberal imperialism,
freedom.
where we use soft power,
I understand. No, please
and
don't repeat yourself. I heard you. I heard you, bro. I'm
but
moving on with the
you're
conversation.
disagreeing
I
with
heard
it
you.
though, and I'm saying that like if you disagree with it, then
Doesn't
there's
mean
got
we
to be.
state the same thing over again.
Well, I'm saying that I'm gonna state it again so that you can tell me what part of it you disagree with, because it sounds like you're agreeing, but then you say like something that is antithetical to what I'm
Okay.
saying, and so
You said he calls it liberal imperialism, okay? And
Mhm.
I said I don't think he disagrees with liberal values, okay? I think he disagrees with the way that America goes about exporting those liberal values, right? Uh, Not like I don't need you to restate that. No, it's American or like imperial and all the stuff you go through to repeating the same thing. I heard
Okay,
you.
I think he
I'm
disagrees
responding
with.
to that
I think he
argument.
hates all of it. I think he doesn't like the Constitution. I think he doesn't like liberalism. I think that he is a Marxist who believes that liberalism is an impediment to Marxism and to like
Well,
achieving.
capitalism is
Yes,
an
and
impediment to
liberalism is
Marxism.
what pushes
No,
capitalism.
no, 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 no. You're completely wrong. Uh, liberalism. Okay, free market. The idea of a free market economy. That sort of liberalism. Yes, like when you say liberalism, that's such a nebulous like term that can mean anything. You gotta really drill down on specifics on what you mean by liberalism. Um,
Talking
yes,
about like
free market
Enlightenment period
economic.
liberalism,
Yeah,
like
I
that.
don't he doesn't have a problem with enlightened period and liberalism, like,
Okay, I believe he
scientific
does.
advancement and the scientific process and, the things that really and, the inventions of machines and all that. That's what people think of when they think of the Enlightenment period, okay? It's not, political or economic fucking philosophies. Like he disagrees with America's economic philosophy of free market capitalism. And what that entails is, yes, exporting our quote unquote liberal values around the country. Now, you could disagree with that. We could argue about that all day. That does not lead me to the conclusion that he hates America or that he's anti-Semitic, which are these two fucking claims that get thrown around about him a lot, which just to me shows the level of political nuance that's going on here. Um, yeah, this is just he's a lefty, he's a socialist, he is a communist sympathizer. Okay, he does not hate America. He wants America to be better. He knows America has ability to be better. We have all the capital, all the military force, all the soft power, all the hard power. We have it all, but yet we still continue to exploit. Still continue to fund genocides. We still continue to, elect retards as president. Like America does a lot of bullshit that he disagrees with, and it isn't because he hates it. And I just think that sort of closed-minded thinking is ridiculous, right? Like, why, why would Bernie Sanders go on somebody's platform that hates America? Why would AOC go on somebody's platform that hates America? Like, why would these prominent politicians go on somebody's Twitch stream that is antithetical to everything American? It
Because I
just
think
doesn't
that they've
happen.
said the same things. I've literally heard AOC say that like shit that
So AOC is
America is the
anti-American.
bad guy and that like I don't think she's it's hard to tell what she represents today because she is like a very different person and has kind of like moderated a lot and it's hard to like say. But when I say Enlightenment period liberalism, I'm not saying Enlightenment ideals and everything. I'm saying liberalism came to be during the Enlightenment, and that is an ideology that it like respects, individual rights, freedom of speech, voting and crap like that. That is like a very specific version of liberalism. That is what he dislikes, and that what Marx talks about as like the thing that will keep people from being able to uh move
Marxist
forward and
voting is the thing that'll keep people from moving forward.
the again the not
That's
voting
that's
liberalism.
oh. He says liberalism is the thing that's going to keep people from moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not a Marx scholar, so I'm not even gonna like pretend to know if that's true or not.
Well, this is why
I've
leftists
never
use
heard it
the
sound.
word liberal as an insult. They literally use it as a pejorative. It's because they, like, as Marxists, as leftists, they like being a liberal is a bad thing. So they all use liberal as like an insult. This is why when Hasan says, I hate liberals, he's not saying, I hate Democrats, really. He's saying people who believe in liberalism, which includes
No,
conservatives. And they say, like, cut
I think that
a fascist and a liberal bleeds, because they believe that liberals are always there to help fascism, implicitly. While thinking that they're the good guys, they're always somehow helping the fascists in the end and backing up the fascists because they want them to have freedom of speech. They want them to have rights too. So instead of just saying, well, stop the fascists and shut them up, they're all out here defending them. So we have to be Antifa and go out and shut them up and stop them from protesting and stop them from having freedom of speech. And that's the entire idea.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, technically, a liberal does espouse liberalism, right? But that's a tough one because when he says liberal, I truly take that to mean like centrist Democrats, like people who just, they might vote Democrat, but they really just want the status quo, like that. That's what I really believe he means by it, not literal like people who believe in voting and like fucking freedom of speech and like individual liberty and like shit like that. Like
Well,
I
they
don't
believe
think
that those things are fake. They believe that, like, what liberals believe in as freedom is fake. It's not real freedom. That, like, if you actually had
which is
freedom,
true, which
yeah.
is
So
true,
like,
which
yeah,
is how
sure,
we
to an
get
extent.
Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly. So I was
Yes.
gonna say, to an extent, but that is part of liberalism. So like, do you know the paradox of what is it, acceptance, or the paradox of
Tolerance.
tolerance? Yes, the paradox of
Tolerance.
tolerance. Like, it's kind of like that, where like a lot of liberals will say, well, he might be a Nazi, but we have to accept him. But like, that's a liberal value to say, well, no, we can't like accept intolerance. If we're going to like be a tolerant society, we have to be intolerant to intolerance.
Sure. So what I would say, yeah. So what I would say is he believes in some liberal values and others he think can be
Yeah,
done
of
away
course.
with. I will concede
Yeah,
about halfway on that. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Is he a danger to America? Is he a danger to our kids? I don't think so. It's like, listen, the colleges have courses on Marx and on fucking, leftist theory and all that shit. I don't think he's destroying anything with this train of thought. This is very
Yeah, but they
common
have
in
courses
American
on like
discourse.
the Nazis too, but I don't think they're
No,
like
yeah, not training. Yeah, but not like yeah, yes, but not like teaching you anything positive about it. Like when I say like courses on Marx, like they paint Marx in a very like, well considered point of view and from the Marx point of view and from the Marxist Leninist, framework. That's how that's presented. Not from the Nazi framework. This is how we look now. It's like it's the Nazis are terrible. Here's what they did. Here's how they destroy people. You get me? Like it's a little
Yeah, I
different.
guess this is just like at the beginning, just to kind of wrap this up. At the beginning, I said that, like, I brought up the Dean Withers thing, where Dean thinks that like he's a liberal and that.
Sure. I agree. Wait, you cut off. Yeah, you cut out. What happened? Shit. The fuck?
Okay, you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you.
My
Yeah.
whole like monitor and everything cut out for some reason. I don't know why it all happens at once. It's weird. But anyways, I'm saying that like with the Dean Withers thing, where Dean thinks he's a liberal and he loves liberals and he's just a regular Democrat just like him, and then he finds like all of these clips of Hasan saying how much he hates liberals and that liberals are the worst and they're scum of the earth and blah blah blah. That like this is a consequence of the way that Hasan constantly presents himself Whereas he is a radical. He is somebody with extreme ideology, but he does pick and choose when he shows that and when he hides it. And he says, I'm a propagandist, to say, I'm trying to get people to think of me as a normal Chad regular guy so that I can get them to start to like listen to my more extreme ideas and start to pull them in. I do this too. I talk to conservatives. I try to seem more reasonable. Yeah, dude, fucking Hillary in the emails, crazy, right? Like, and then once they come over, yes, I will start to espouse maybe more liberal or progressive ideas. But I think that his ideas are extreme and radical. I don't think mine are. And so I think that this is where the danger is with him, is that he's like a lot more disingenuous with the way that he presents himself. And I think a lot of people are tricked by that.
All right, here, and we'll leave this here. Can you do me a favor? This isn't a homework assignment, but like, can you find like the 5 most radical positions that Hasan has, like, or 3? I don't know how many. And then like, I want to come back in a week and like really have this discussion, because I would like to have some tangible things, like tangible ideas, not like, nebulous. Like he does not like, he doesn't like liberals, or he thinks liberalism is bad. I want like quotes or statements from Hasan that show his point of view and what he thinks about it. So because I, I watch Hasan. I didn't come with any quotes. You watch some. I watch as much as Hasan. I watch Hasan. That's weird to say, but like, I've seen some Hasan. You've seen some Hasan. So we're both familiar with who he is and what he espouses. It seems like,
Mhm.
but somehow we both have away with completely different opinions
Mhm.
of who this guy is and what he stands for. So I really want to hammer down on some real points to talk about this, because how many times is this now we've talked about Hasan? Like 6 or 7. Like
Probably
this is
closer
an
to 10.
ongoing topic for us. Yeah, we've talked about Hasan a lot on this
It's a
on this
series. We're
stream.
putting them
So
all out as episodes.
might as well at this point. Might as well. And for a while you were dragging me along. Then we started to get to like the anti-Semitism and he hates America and like all these type of claims, which I know these, like you just said this tonight, but it's really like all the Ethan hate that's really getting my guard up a little bit, because a lot of it seems unhinged. A lot of it seems like it's just like paranoid delusions. Like Hasan is fucking coordinating with Dan Clancy to fucking to ban Ethan and shit. Like, I'm 99% sure. Ethan said in one of his things, I'm 99% sure Hasan called Dan Clancy and told him to, do some shit behind the scenes. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that was
okay,
weird.
bro, what are we, like, we're in schizo territory
Yeah,
now.
that
What are
was
we doing?
weird. Yeah, I thought that was weird too. But that's the point, is that like as I said, like there's a lot of things that like with Ethan, like I'll disagree with. I just feel like he is more likely, when I disagree with things or catch him on something that's wrong, fuck my mic again. Dude, this is getting ridiculous. Ay, ay, ay.
What is your mic plugged into?
A Focusrite.
Yeah, that's what
Fuck.
I have. I know Chat loves mic talk, but
Do you wait? So do you have the? I forget what it's called. It's a.
it's like a Shure X something. It was the 200. I can tell you. I'll
No,
just
no,
look
no,
at my
no, no,
Amazon
no.
order.
Focusrite.
The interface. Yeah,
Yeah.
Focusrite. Focusrite control. Wait.
I forget what it's called. It's like a color or it's like a red color. It's the name of it. It's
Scarlet Solo.
Scarlet. Yes, Scarlet. You have the 3rd gen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
very good.
Scarlet, I have the 3rd gen Scarlet. It out of nowhere just goes fuzzy. I've looked it up. Apparently, everybody has this problem with it. I think if they use OBS. I think that's what it is, or maybe it's OBS. I can't remember what it was, but there was something about it that, like, if they use it, it just does this. And that Scarlet has no fix to it, nothing. And do you have it plugged into one side right now, right?
Yes, and I
Okay.
had to. Yes.
Did you have to put it on mono?
Yep, because I saw you talk about it last stream or something.
Yeah,
On
I didn't
OBS.
have
Yes,
to
I had to put it
until
on mine.
I didn't have to until the other day. That's the first time I've ever had to put it
a
on
recent
mono.
update.
It was an
Yeah,
update.
they did a recent update. Yeah, they did a
Fuck
recent
them,
update.
dude.
Does
Fuck them.
Does your shit update automatically?
Yes, it literally it updated in
Yeah.
the middle of my stream. And when it updated, that fucked everything up. That like my mic's quality is not what it was before. And there's no way to get it back there. Now that they did this, there's no way to get it back.
Yeah, and I'm new to the whole XLR cable mic. I had my little
Same.
shitty USB. That's you know what I'm saying? So I'm new to all
Same.
this.
Yep.
I'm learning right along with you. But yeah.
But anyways,
listen,
with the Hasan thing, I'm like the conversation that we had where you said like you were stringing me along. The conversation that we have where the whole time I'm comparing him to to Nick Fuentes. There's like a bunch of clips at the beginning, and then there's a clip at the very end, and that would be my those would be my examples. It's just like all of that kind of like when we're talking about like being an extremist and being like radical and all this, those would all be my examples. And I feel like they're not, again, they're never going to be this like solid thing, just as I don't think they will be with Nick Fuentes. You'll always, anything we find, it's always like vague enough or like close enough to be justified in some way, or it's something that later he says, no, that was just a joke, dude. You know that was a joke. Like, obviously, I was kidding. Like, come on. Like, it's always this thing where, yes, it will never be this, like, solid thing.
Ideas. I just don't find his ideas nearly as dangerous as Nick's. You can find, you can pretty much frame his ideology in the most and make it seem like he like sincerely believes all these things, but at the end of the day, at the worst, he's a Marxist, like at the worst, or a communist. And like he's not he that's never going to happen in America. He's not put and at the end of the day, that ideology is a political ideology that doesn't hate on a race or a group of people like with immutable characteristics like Nazism or neo-Nazis. They're based on hatred of Jews, blacks, other races and stuff.
Sure, I don't think he's a
And
neo-Nazi, but I just think that, yeah, I think that he has extreme beliefs, that are very radical beliefs that are considered to be outside of the norm of a liberal society. And yeah.
No, not outside of the norm of a liberal society. It's not maybe a capitalist society, but not a. I mean, listen, we can have this conversation. I don't want to draw this on, but yeah, we'll talk about it later. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on for hours. I'm sorry, chat. It's been very long. But yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, man. Later.